And what is up, everybody? It's a little past the top of the hour here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And you know what that means. It's time to kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy. It's time for the Digital Dash. I am your host, Javier Reyes, and for the next 3 hours, I'm going to be talking to you about all the stories, the impressions, the all those unabashed opinions and little idiosyncrasies out there that exist in the world of pop culture goodness, and sometimes featuring only, and I mean only, the most illustrious of guests. Today's episode, we've got a lot. But it's going to be a little bit weird today. I'm going to have my friend Noah Grossman come in, or not come in, but he's going to call in to talk about Super Bowl 53, which was last night for those of you who don't know or didn't know. And we're going to talk about the Knicks, the dysfunctional New York Knicks, and the trades and stuff that happened last week. We're going to do that for a little bit. Then after that, I don't know anymore if this is the case, but I was planning on having an assistant DJ. I got an email last night that said I was one of the people that would have an assistant DJ. Maybe that was starting for next week because I don't see anybody here. So I might just be an idiot. I don't know, folks. I don't know. It's one of those days, I guess. And then after that, we're going to talk about The West Wing. And kind of, it's an older show, not an old show, but it's it's been off the mainstream talk for a while, I should say. You know what I mean? It finished a while ago, but I just started watching it with my mom over the break, and it's really just been one of the best decisions I ever made. I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit and just go over, compare and contrast, I guess, with modern politics and what it feels like, and this show being, I don't know, it's hard to explain it, but it's just it's inspiring, I guess is the word I would use, this show, versus what we have right now, in my opinion anyway. Then after that, my friend Adam Grassani, who's also a DJ here at WMSC, is going to come on and talk about Kingdom Hearts 3, our first impressions of the game. Big game that came out, obviously, for those who don't know. Looking forward to it. This should be a fun conversation. We're going to get into it for a little bit, not too much just because we both haven't played quite enough of the game to render like a final verdict. But I'm curious to talk with Adam about it just because I know he's such a crazy lunatic fan of that franchise. So that should be a lot of fun. But before all that, we might get into the opening dash. I don't know because Noah said something came up because he's one of those weird nerd kids where things come up for him. And we might actually start with him. We might actually start with the Super Bowl talk. I'm not sure. But one way or the other, we will do the opening dash and do a little bit of a news roundup for you guys. Looking forward to it. So yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, and when we get back, guys, you know what it is. It's the Digital Dash, 90.3 WMSC. Upper Montclair, stay tuned. And what is up, everybody? We are back here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. You're listening to the Digital Dash. Was mentioning before that my friend Noah was going to text and see if he could come on quicker or later. I don't really know, and he has not texted yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and start the opening dash a little bit. If Noah messages back, then we'll stop in the middle of it and have him call in. But for now, let's start with our first story. Ben Affleck. Oh, and also, I just want to throw this out there. I got so depressed after what happened last night that, not going to lie, didn't feel like getting the links to my stories today. So I'm just going to go based off of what I know. They're not super complicated that I need to, read off of the websites that I usually read off of. But it's okay. We're going to get through it. Just saying, guys, last night was tough. It was tough for about 90% of the country last night. It really was. I'm not going to lie. Spoiler alert. Last night was pretty terrible. Ben Affleck will not be returning as Batman in the Matt Reeves movie, The Batman, which got a release date for 2021. But Ben Affleck, like I said, is not returning for the role. This had been rumored for a really long time, actually. And it's a little unfortunate because I thought that Ben Affleck actually did a pretty good job as Batman. I thought he was interesting. I think he's about the 25th worst thing. Like the 25th problem that, 25th lowest problem that the DC movies have. I don't think any of the actors actually are a problem, really. Maybe with the exception of Jesse Eisenberg, who's a phenomenal actor, but he should not be playing Lex Luthor. But anyway, so this was expected for a while. Now I guess the hunt for the next Batman is going to continue, and we're probably going to hear rumors and casting calls about this for the next couple years, guys. So strap in. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Yeah, I'm a little upset, but I think we were all expecting it. It is pretty funny that Affleck, over and over kept reassuring everybody that this wasn't going to happen and that he's staying for the long run, and the media's making stuff up. And guess what? The media wasn't making stuff up. Breaking news. You definitely were jumping ship. So, yeah, that's the first story. The next thing, Black Panther is returning to theaters for free from February 1st to 7th. I saw this off of Twitter from Mr. Bob Iger. Excuse me. Excuse me again. So yeah, this is cool. It's to celebrate Black History Month. It's a nice little thing that Disney does. Them and their whole monopolizing of the market, that they're gonna have Black Panther for free from. It's February 4th now, so you only have a few more days. But still, a nice little sentiment to put out there, and it's exciting. I thought Black Panther was fantastic. Definitely one of my favorite movies that I saw last year. One of the best movies I think I saw last year for sure. And it's just cool to see them do this. And I think there's been this strange counter lately where people think that it doesn't deserve the Best Picture nomination and that Infinity War was so much better. And I mean, we could leave that topic for another time, but what? What are people talking about? So moving on to the next story, though. Speaking of the Avengers, last night at the Super Bowl, spoiler, it was the only good thing. And I'm a Marvel guy, and I know I'm biased, and you guys hear me talk about superheroes and comic book properties all the time, but straight up the best thing about the Super Bowl last night was the Avengers Endgame teaser. Showed off just some brief glimpses at new footage. Might talk about it with Noah for a little bit. I don't know. And it was really exciting. It kicked off the game. It was right after the coin toss. They just, boom, it was right there. I thought the night was going to be great based off of that. And it was not, unfortunately. But the trailer itself was really cool. A lot of little, it's got this, I was texting Mr. Robert O'Connor, and he mentioned this. I thought it was a great point. It had like a Rapture vibe to it, where nobody was there and everybody had disappeared. I thought that was really cool. And it also seems to lend credence to the report that apparently for Avengers Endgame, they're only going to advertise the first 30 minutes of the movie, you know? So that's really exciting. It just seems like, based off what we looked like, it's the aftermath. They're showing brief scenes that take place right after what happened in Avengers Infinity War. And I like that. I think it's awesome that this reportedly 3-hour movie, they're only going to advertise the very beginning of it. That's awesome. You know what I mean? It's super exciting, and I think a lot of people should be excited about that too. The next thing wasn't the only trailer that was shown. It was one of the few, actually. But we got a new Captain Marvel spot. You know, showed off new footage. The movie's set to come out next month. And also we got Hobbs and Shaw. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. We got a little bit of a segmented teaser trailer for that, which was super exciting. Not really, actually. I'm just kidding. Fast and Furious I'm kind of out on. I loved the franchise before. I was all in on its lunacy and over-the-top action. But then Fate of the Furious came out, and I heard what happened at the end of that movie. I still haven't seen it. And I'm like, enough. I don't know. I just feel like it's making way too much money. I don't know how these movies are making as much money as they are. I don't know. I might just be crazy. I'll see Fate of the Furious eventually. But this is like a spin-off with The Rock and Jason Statham's character. It looks fun, but it also is just hilarious to contrast it with Fast and Furious, which is just no longer about cars. It just straight up is no longer about cars. And I respect that they're kind of doubling down on that. And they're being like, yeah, we're just going to have fun and do ridiculous action stuff with occasional vehicle warfare involved, you know, to kind of relate to what the original movie was. So yeah, that happened last night too. They also showed, I believe it was a teaser for the Twilight Zone reboot, hosted by Jordan Peele. That was really cool. Excited for that. And that was basically all the trailers that came out last night. I might be forgetting one. Oh, and at the end of the game, I didn't put this in my roundup because it happened after I had turned off the TV. There was a little short teaser for Toy Story 4, which was really cool. And I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be great. I trust Disney implicitly, and I think they wouldn't be making another one if they didn't know that they had something special. Toy Story, for all intents and purposes, is like one of the golden best movie trilogies ever made. Like, straight up. You know, and not many franchises can say that they had a good trilogy as good as that. You know, really not that many. So that was cool to see. Next story, though, is Javier Bardem has joined Denis Villeneuve's Dune reboot. Javier Bardem is an excellent actor, and he is terrifying. I don't think there was any word on the role that he would be playing, but still, it is cool to see that they're getting a lot of people for this movie. And Dune, from what I'm told, is one of those Star Wars-esque type of potential properties. You know what I mean? It has that vast of a universe, and it just has never translated yet to the big screen, from what I've heard, of course. I could be wrong, but that's based off of what my mom's told me and just all these documentaries that say, you know, Jodorowsky's Dune, which was something that I really wanted to watch, but I didn't get a chance to yet, and just how this franchise has a lot of potential. So we'll We'll see what happens. But next after that, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper are set to perform at the Oscars this year, which is cool. And it's just going to be a reminder. I'm telling you, after their performance, they're going to play Shallow. You know they're going to. And after that performance, we're all going to be like, man, you remember when he got snubbed for Best Director? This is going to be sad. It's going to be like really cool, and I imagine the performance is going to be awesome. But it's going to be a shame that the only Oscar Star is Born is probably going to win this year is for the song. It got robbed from Best Director category for Bradley Cooper, and I think that it was a Best Picture contender for sure, and I don't think it is anymore. Because Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody apparently are the best movies of the year now. I don't know how this happened, but it happened. Then, next story, Escape from New York. This one I do have a link to, oddly enough. Escape from New York apparently is getting a reboot. Reading from IGN. A reboot of the 1981 apocalyptic sci-fi film Escape from New York is in the works with the Saw co-creator Leigh Whannell. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Whannell will be behind the script for the upcoming remake, and sources are also saying there's a chance he may wind up directing the new movie as well. John Carpenter, the director and writer behind the original movie, will be executive producer for the new film, and Andrew Rona and Alex Heineman are producing. So, yeah, the original Escape from New York takes place in a post-apocalyptic, then future 1997. The President of the United States crashes into the island of Manhattan, which has been turned into an Alcatraz-style prison after a massive influx of crime. The government needs to turn to a former Special Forces soldier. Hold on a second. Oh, no, you fool. Hold on one second, folks. So, yeah, that's happening. Should be interesting. I've never seen Escape from New York, but I know a lot of people like that movie quite a lot. Kind of ironically, they like it, like in an ironic way, they like the movie, but still, kind of cool to see that. I'm going to quickly go through the next stories here. Super Mario Brothers animated movie has been announced for a release date in 2022. Cool. Don't know if this is going to work, but I do know that it's good that they're taking the animated approach, because we all saw what happened with that older 80s Mario Brothers movie, which was very, very bad. Believe me, it is very, very infuriatingly, offensively bad. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, the last story, though. Deadpool 2 has become the highest-grossing X-Men film, grossing over $800 million, I believe, in total. I don't have the actual numbers here. Like I said, guys, I got lazy and didn't get all the links to my stories. But still, no surprise there necessarily. But, you know, Deadpool's big, and it broke out. It's one of the highest-grossing R-rated movies ever, and it's doing well, you know. And I don't know what they're going to do with that character going forward, but it should be interesting to follow for sure. It's a little bit unfortunate because I think that some of the X-Men movies are really, really good, and they're kind of going to get forgotten, I think, after this Disney merger, and people forgot how really good those movies were. But yeah, guys, that's it for the movie news. After this, my friend Noah's going to call in for the little time he has to talk about the Super Bowl and the Knicks, hopefully. Hopefully we can fit both of those things together. So yeah, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back in a little bit here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. And what is up, everybody? Welcome back to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. You're listening to the Digital Dash, and now, we don't have too much time, but calling in from an undisclosed location is the gross one, Mr. Noah Grossman. Great nickname, right? I don't know. It's the best I could think of right now. I haven't come up with a nickname for all of my guests yet. It's good? I'll figure out something better, though. I need something better. The sad Knicks fan? Does that work?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Well, before we get into the sadness of the Knicks, let's get into the sadness of the Super Bowl. So did you watch last night's events, as we may call them?
Yes, I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's real rough. And here's my first thing. I think the Pats fans out there, they're probably thinking, oh, you're just upset the Pats won. No, it's not that. The game was terrible. Like, the game was really bad. I don't know. What did you think?
I thought this whole week leading up to the game and then the game itself was a black eye for the NFL, especially compared to the week the NBA has had.
Oh, yeah, the NBA, like, completely one-upped them this entire week. They stole the spotlight. Like, they really did. We'll get into that a little bit later, of course. But I think that I don't like doing the whole, like, recency bias thing. I don't like overreacting and the hyperbole around this, but I really do think that was the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. I can't remember one that was even close to it. I mean,
I think that Denver, Seattle, and Carolina, Denver are being brought up a lot. The difference with that is the halftime show is at least impressive. especially with the Denver-Seattle one. I think Bruno Mars is the best halftime show I ever saw. Personally, I think he was phenomenal. I'll never forget my dad just frantically texting me and asking who that was. Like it was like the next Michael Jackson. And with the Denver-Seattle one, we had Beyonce, Coldplay, and Bruno Mars. So at least that was good. With this game, we get Maroon 5, who about maybe since I was in middle school past their prime, maybe, I think. So that's unfortunate. And then they messed up Sweet Victory by SpongeBob. They didn't even play it. And it seems like they stole the thing from Twitter anyway. So that's a whole nother hornet's nest that's probably going to transpire over the coming weeks.
Yeah, and even those games, like Denver, Seattle, ended up with a ton of points.
True.
And it was like the tour de force of the Seattle defense.
Yeah, at least it felt like that game felt like, wow, they're just unstoppable. This game just felt like, oh, the Rams kind of limited Tom Brady, who secretly didn't play all that well. Sorry to break it to folks. And it wasn't really good defense. It was just it was good defense, but it wasn't like Seattle, where Seattle just straight up was like, if you rewatch that game, which I have a little bit before, they were just prepared for everything Denver did. Like, you can see it. Like, I remember the Demaryius Thomas, like, screen pass thing that Denver had run, like, all year. And this is back when Demaryius Thomas is in his prime, and he's running, like, a 4.4 at his height, which he's, like, the fastest receiver at that point. Yeah. And, like, it always worked for them. Peyton and his 65 TDs that year. And it immediately gets stopped for, like, a loss of 3. And there was just something about that play where I was like, oh, man, like, Seattle looks like they're ready to play. They had the one big hit from Cam Chancellor on him. That was big. And, for this game, is there, like, one highlight you can think of? Like, honestly, I can't even think of the one. I guess it's the Gronk catch, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. And the Zerline make, I guess, from 53.
The Zerline make, the McCourty breaking up a touchdown.
Yeah, the McCourty breaking up a touchdown, even though Goff just blew it and should have thrown it earlier. I think that was probably the play of the game, honestly. And another thing was, what play was it? Yeah, after the field goal, Tony Romo shouting, "Points!" was probably the only good thing that happened. Like, even Tony Romo was bored. And he had a lot of pressure on him, I feel like, heading into the game, like how many things he's going to predict. He didn't have anything to predict. He couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. Everyone was bored.
So, lowest scoring Super Bowl ever.
Lowest scoring Super Bowl ever. I saw on Twitter someone mentioned, Mr. Jason Strat, who I've mentioned on the show before, that this was karma for the Saints getting robbed, that the NFL would get a terrible Super Bowl week and game. And I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. I feel like...
You're so sad.
I feel like best case scenario for this year was like Breeze beating Brady in the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden Breeze is now in the conversation for greatest of all time or whatever. Mm-hmm. And instead, we just got nothing.
We got Jared Gosling, who was terrible, and Brady. Yeah, Brady. I don't know. It's really frustrating because the Pats pushed this agenda ever since the playoffs started, with Edelman kicking it off that they were like the underdogs and that people counted them out. And I'm like, if you have 5 Super Bowls, you will literally never be the underdog in anything. Yeah. Like, just stop talking. I don't care. And also, you had home field against a team that was, okay, here comes the bias, much better than you this year. That's not even a debate. The Chargers were so much better. And somehow the Chargers, who were probably the second best team in the AFC this year, in order for them to have made the Super Bowl, they would have had to play 3 road games. So that's awesome. Good job on that part. Because Joe Montana's in our division now, so that's awesome. And with the Pats, everyone's like, oh, they count us out. It's like, yeah, for good reason. You didn't play well this year. Like, you were terrible. They were just not good this year. And that's what's frustrating, is they act like people counted them out. It's like, no, we really, really didn't. I mean, maybe you could say at the beginning of the year, heading into the season, but heading into the playoffs, Pats weren't good, like, at all. Like, they just weren't. I mean, they have the weakest division I've ever seen in my life, and they still, like, struggled this year.
Coming from an NFC East fan, they have the weakest division.
Yeah. The NFC East is, like, the most overrated division, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some things in there. At least they beat the Giants. The Giants and Eagles have beat the Pats, like, 3 times combined, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, the Giants always beat the Patriots.
It's really tragic, and I'm upset that we got such a poopy game to end the year. I thought it was going to be. I was like getting really optimistic after the Avengers trailer, which was right after the coin toss, and straight up, I think that was the best part of the entire night. Halftime show was terrible. Oh my gosh! I mean, some of the commercials were really weird. The T-Mobile ones were kind of like they were going for it, I think. And then you had I did like the NFL 100 commercial though. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
I like that.
That was fun. They didn't even have a lot of movie trailers in the first place. I was holding out hope for Star Wars getting shown, but that franchise I guess is like dead right now and nobody wants to talk about it. It's really weird. We've got like the final movie and nobody's talking about it like at all. But yeah, so basically that's. You have any final thoughts like on the Super Bowl itself?
It just felt like a fitting end to a year where the NFL just fell flat.
It stinks because I actually think offensively the year was great.
Oh, it was fantastic.
But then we can we just pretend that the Chiefs Rams game from a few months ago was the Super Bowl? Are we all right with that? Can we all agree on that? Let's just pretend that was the Super Bowl.
I saw a tweet and it was like the third place game between the Saints and the Chiefs is 46-41 right now in the third quarter.
I know, right? Oh my gosh, man. It's so sad. The Saints were robbed. And I think that I honestly do believe that there's going to be a little bit of a shroud over this game to a degree where people are like, the Saints definitely should have played the Pats. And I think most people think that they probably would have won. Because I think Breeze and Peyton go into that game being like, forget you. We don't care. Like, Breeze is just as talented as Tom Brady, like, just as a play perspective. Not saying accomplishments, obviously. They probably would have headed into that game like, forget you guys. Like, we're going to be fine. And I think they would have beat them. But anyway, congrats to the Pats, I guess. Cool. Congratulations. Nobody cares. And usually people care for a little bit about Super Bowls. This isn't baseball where nobody cared about the Red Sox winning this year. Like, I don't think anybody cared that the Pats won this year, like, at all. Everyone's like, all right, yawn. Let's go back to the NBA. And speaking of, I'm sorry.
I said, wow, the dark side won.
Yeah, the dark side did win. And speaking of the NBA, last week a lot of things happened. And a lot of things happened to a team that you worship, right? Is that fair to say?
Worship is a interesting way to put the relationship.
It's an abusive relationship, I'd say. It really is. They keep reeling you back in.
Oh, I can't leave.
And that's the New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen. The franchise that just never fails to every 3 to 4 years do something really inordinately stupid. And you're one of the three people that know. The Knicks traded Kristaps Porzingis last week on Thursday. I believe it was Thursday. It was quite the movement. And they gave up, I believe it was Tim Hardaway Jr. as well, and a pick. And then they got in return Dennis Smith Jr., Wes Matthews, and hold on, who's the last one? And DeAndre Jordan, former love of my life, who's way past his prime now. And and they get like a I think some first round pick and whenever, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we got a next year first round. I don't know even if it's been reported yet what pick that is.
Yeah, it's just
this year's first round pick.
Let me check. All right, New York will bring back Dennis Smith Jr. and clear a bunch of salary in the deal, receiving the expirings of DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, and sending Tim Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee to the Mavericks. The Knicks also get 2 future first round picks from the Mavericks. Cool. So your initial reaction to the trade?
Disbelief. I live with 2 other Knicks fans, and just all of a sudden we're all in like the common area of our apartment, just looking at each other wide-eyed. Anger. Best prospect we've had since literally Patrick Ewing. And we give up on him after, because it was, I read the report about how he was upset and he was tired of losing and he wanted clarification on his role, and I was like, all right, we need to do better by Kristaps. And then 4 hours later I checked my phone and he's traded.
I think that's what's interesting, and I've seen a lot of people, Jason Concepcion of The Ringer and multiple other basketball reporters, basically saying like, this is just really weird that we get a report about how he's unhappy with the direction, or he wants to know what direction they're going in, and then he's traded with all these pieces involved. Are we sure that like the Mavericks and Knicks haven't been talking about this for a while?
Yeah, that's the confusing thing, and I'm sure we're gonna learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like, were we shopping him and then we leaked the unhappiness thing to make us look better? Or was he demanding a trade this whole time? But, I mean, I read a report yesterday that we didn't even really shop him around that much. Like, a bunch
Interesting.
of people didn't even hear from us.
That's
Were
weird.
interested.
Yeah, that's one of the most puzzling things about this. Like, it's Porzingis. Like, you'd think that a lot of teams would probably be interested in this. Like, I was sure that we would get one of those. Oh, the Celtics. They wanted to do it, but the Knicks were asking for too much. Because you know how that happens every time the Celtics want to make a trade.
Yeah.
That someone leaks that the other team was asking for too much when they weren't. It's like, oh, you have to give up good things in order to get good players. Oh, who wouldn't have known? Yeah. So sorry, everybody. This is a very anti-Boston show today. It just is. So deal with it. And what's interesting is, you know, our good friend Tyler Jones. We all got into an argument with him over text after this happened. And Tyler Jones, known cold, he's a lover of cold takes. That's what I would say about Tyler. And he believes in every prospect in NBA history or NFL history, maybe even MLB history, that was good once in high school. That's like his thing. That's his go-to. Yeah. And he starts writing the narrative. He goes like Remember the Titans mode, where he's like, this guy went through so much adversity. 5-star recruit out of Wilmington High School, 17 points a game, 12 assists. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, he just starts going off. And we got into an argument in the chat about Dennis Smith Jr., who you do not like. That's for sure.
Do not like Dennis Smith Jr.
Why is that? No?
I feel like he's such a mid-2000s point guard. He's just like, his best case scenario is like 18 points a game and 5 assists with a bad shooting percentage. I know I sent you the stats where I compared his stats to Michael Carter-Williams,
mm-hmm.
which is not really fair to Dennis Smith. He's going to be better than NCW,
mm-hmm.
and at least we got one high potential player.
Right, that's fair.
To Jordan and Wesley Matthews.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does raise a good point about it is maybe a little bit too early to completely write off a player who, you know, showed moments, I think, last year, and this year. Maybe it's true. Maybe he doesn't look as good just because he happens to be paired with a guy who essentially is taking his position and his role, and just can't play along with that when that player is the best like rookie we've had in a long time. So that's like a fair thing. However, I think the problem with this is, on one hand, if you trade for Dennis Smith Jr., he's not good, then yeah, you messed up. Like, he's just not good. And two, if he is good, he's gonna mess up your guy's lottery position probably. And that's probably the biggest concern, where it's a lose-lose either way. And if this is for hoping that Kevin Durant comes, or Kyrie Irving comes over, you're more tapped into the New York market than I am. But I will say this. It feels like a lot of times when players are rumored to go to the Knicks, it's because the New York media creates that idea. It's like, I've never actually heard, they're like, oh, Durant called him the unicorn, and that's why he wants to come to New York. He wants to save the Knicks and all that stuff. And I'm like, are we sure? Like, I don't know. I mean, I could see it more from Durant versus Kyrie, because as much as Durant likes to say it, I do not think doesn't care. I think he does care that everybody hates him right now. That's just true. And that everyone says you basically joined a winning team. Not even a winning team, just a championship team. And you got like free championships, and Boogie's going to help them win another one this year. And I think that maybe to counter that, he's going to be like, all right, cool, I'm going to go fix the Knicks now. And then you guys can talk to me. I think it's the only way to save that image of him. I really do think that that's something he thinks about out of all the players on that team. I don't think someone like DeMarcus Cousins or Draymond Green thinks about that at all. I think the two of them are good. And Curry and Thompson are good because they're kind of the ones that started this. I think Durant's got this real, I care about the fact that nobody likes me anymore. I really think that that's like, might help him. But with the Kyrie situation, why? I don't understand where this has come from.
It would be just peak Knicks to do all this, right? Because essentially what we're doing is we're saying, yeah, Kristaps is good, but he's not good enough. Mm-hmm. We want to get the absolute best. We want Zion, Durant, Kyrie.
Kevin Knox. Don't forget Kevin Knox.
I like Knox, but
Yeah, he's
Knox
all
is
right.
not.
He's just not a burst out on the scene rookie, and not many are.
No, he'll be a fine third option in the
Mm-hmm.
league, but it would be peak Knicks to like pick second overall, get Barrett instead of Zion,
Mm-hmm.
and then instead of Durant and Kyrie, get Kemba and Butler,
Mm.
and mid-tier Eastern Conference playoff team for 3 years, and then be old and not good again.
Yeah, I
That's
could see that.
feels Knicks. That's what we did with Stoudemire and Melo.
Or like Tobias Harris is another one.
See that.
Hey, Tobias Harris is good, man. But I know what you're saying. Like, to make all this cap space for a Boogie, Kemba Walker, these guys who are good players, but not, oh man,
Right.
we need to make sure we mortgage our future for these guys. Because if your goal is to win a title, I think it should have been. It's just weird. Like, he's on a rookie deal and you're using him as trade bait to clear cap space. It's just questionable to me.
Yeah,
You know?
and we, as a restricted free agent, we could have signed one of Durant and Kyrie, and we were still bad enough to pick maybe first overall, and, and we could have done the same thing, but with Kristaps, who, at worst, if he comes back from this injury with no explosiveness,
Mhm.
he's still a 7'3" 3-point shooter who can defend the paint.
Yeah, and that's rare. And I think everybody in the league is looking for stuff like that right now. From the Mavericks perspective, I think this is, they have a lot of problems. And I texted this in our group chat where they have a lot of problems off the court right now. But in
Mhm.
terms of their on the court stuff, it's kind of remarkable how they rebounded from basically the DeAndre Jordan fiasco, the Rondo trade that didn't work out, and having, Harrison Barnes, I guess, kind of as like your best player, maybe, and signing DeAndre Jordan to a 1-year deal. And instead, now all of a sudden you have Doncic, who is the decade's most why didn't he go first overall player I can think of right now. And then, like, just as someone who doesn't pay attention to college, and when I found out the critiques against him, I was like, what? Because he didn't play here? Against 19-year-olds? That's like what we need to see? He's playing. And then John told me, he's like, yeah, he's been playing professionally since he was 15. I was like, what? This guy's the first overall pick. I don't need to know anything else. Maybe I'm ignorant. And
You gotta trade him for Trae Young.
yeah, you got to trade him for Trae Young. Oh my gosh, the Atlanta Hawks. And I had this realization the other day where I was like, why is the East still bad? Like, eventually you would think that it would shift the tide by now. I'm like, oh, this is why, because when they have the chance to be good, they pass on it for Trae Young. With the Knicks, I think, like I was saying, it just feels like a lose-lose unless Dennis Smith Jr. is unbelievable. And if he's unbelievable, then, that messes up the draft position. Who knows? Maybe R.J. Barrett will be good. Is he a point guard?
No, he's a wing.
Oh, he's a wing. Okay, that's good because you don't want another point guard on your team right now. And then you have this situation where, if you mess up the lottery position, and then maybe you sign these okay free agents, and then, like you said, you become like a mid-tier playoff team, which is definitely not what Knicks fans want. They want to actually be good. So it's sad.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's only a successful trade if we get Durant. That's
Yeah.
the only way that can be vindicated here.
Yeah, the only way is if you get like a Durant, Kyrie type of thing going. And imagine that if you get Zion too, you have Kevin Knox still learning, and he'll probably look even better when he's surrounded by those guys.
Oh, yeah.
But it just doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel. I just don't understand how you make this trade. I don't understand how you do this, and I know Porzingis has been really kind of vocal on social media saying like the whole story hasn't been told, essentially, to paraphrase.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, we're probably going to get new things in the coming weeks about how the Knicks might have tried to make him look bad, which is a very Knicks thing to do, I think.
Such a Dolan thing to do.
Yeah, you're not a big fan of James Dolan, I hear.
Wow. Nope. I don't think anyone in this country is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure nobody is. Except for, like, I can't even think of an appropriate joke enough for air, so can't say that.
James Dolan's biggest fan.
Yeah. And, I mean, I do respect the fact that the Knicks gave us a good story to talk about last week. It was fun, but I also feel bad, man. And this is also why my dad is no longer pays attention to basketball, because he gave up on the Knicks after the Pat Riley era. He said he's done. He's like, I'm done after this. I don't want to go through this anymore. In a lot of ways, they're the most overrated team in sports, next to Dallas. And I don't know what to say, man. Like, do you have any words? Do you?
We're finally being patient, and
Mm.
then we weren't patient with being patient.
How does it feel knowing that the Nets rebuilt faster than you?
Faster, more efficiently. They're a playoff team right now.
Yeah, they're a playoff team, and they hadn't had their pick, I believe, for 10 years. And they rebuilt faster than the Knicks.
DeAndre Jordan started for the Knicks last night.
Oh my gosh. This is so great. This is so great. I just can't get enough of this. This is amazing. You remember when you guys had like Sasha Vujacic starting?
And we were still trying to be good. We get like a tanking roster, and we try to be good, and then we get a tanking situation, and we put together like a couple of winners on our like. We got better short term by that trade,
Mm-hmm.
Unless we buy out Jordan and Matthews, which I hope we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot of concern with that, man. I don't know like what to say. It's really rough. It's really rough. Do you think that? I don't know. I mean, is there a positive side to this? Is there any other angle to talk about, really? Is this the worst like moment you think that you've had as a Knicks fan in a while, or like what do you think is like the worst Knicks trade, Knicks signing? What do you think is like the worst thing? Is it
I
this?
still think the Melo trade was worse than this.
True. At least you got a good player out of it, but yeah, you did
Which,
give up your entire team for him when he was coming over anyway.
I know.
Wow, that was a long time ago too.
Set us back.
That was pretty bad. Joe Kim thing was pretty bad.
Joking thing. Oh,
Joe Kim Noah, who's on the team still? No, or yes or no?
we bought him out. So
Okay, they bought him out. Okay. Then maybe the Isaiah Thomas whole thing.
Oh, there's been a lot.
There's been
We
so
had a lot of
much.
trades in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm. It's really rough, and I think that a lot of the Knicks fans out there are thinking of giving up, and this prospect of they have 2 max salary slots, I just feel like I've heard that so many times before. I mean, I feel like I've heard this story before with the Knicks, and they're clearing enough space for the free agency over the summer. I feel like I've heard that before. And also, just one last thought to before I get you out of there, or before you get out of here. I was talking with John about this. I'm not really rooting for the Knicks to. I mean, I feel bad. You're my friend and all, and I want you to be happy. But I'd be a little upset if Durant went to the Knicks. I wouldn't be upset with him because I 100% would understand why he's going there. It's just, and this is the same thing with the Lakers. I don't like that these two teams have the potential to be good without earning it at all. Essentially, where the Lakers fall back into these picks and LeBron goes there just because he wants to be in LA, and then with the Knicks, people want to go there because of how bad they are. Essentially, is what would happen. In order to save them. And I would not be a fan of that. It'd just be boring. It's like go to Milwaukee. Go to a team that's actually shown that they've earned like a free agent to sign there. Or Indy. Maybe the Pacers. You know, I know the Pacers never sign anybody. Maybe go to the Pacers. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 2021 NBA Finals. LeBron, AD, and Jimmy Butler Lakers against the Zion, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Knicks.
Hey, that'd be cool. That'd be fun to watch. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. All right, but you got any final thoughts?
Neither of these sports leagues are being very nice to me right now.
This is the most like sad I've had you on the show for sure. I mean, you don't even feel like talking. You're just out of it.
I'm depressed.
Hey, man, I feel you. But I'm gonna let you go. Get your school stuff together, whatever that is. You nerd. So yeah, guys, this is Noah signing out. Nice talking to you, buddy. I'll see you later.
See you later, man. Good luck.
Good luck. And that was Noah Grossman on the line there, ladies and gentlemen, talking about Super Bowl. And he was just clearly very sad. Like, clearly very sad. This is a sad human being right now. And I feel for him. And I think we should all send out a little prayer message, you know, a little bit of good words to him, because he's going through a lot as both a Knicks fan and a fan of things being happy with the NFL. And we did not get that last night. The Knicks got destroyed. They were decimated. Unless they signed Durant or Kyrie in the summer, I can't see any way that this trade is defensible. And it just It just sounds like this is a Tobias Harris / Kemba Walker type of signing thing. Good players, not worth super max contracts that won't really get them too far. So it's unfortunate. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here, guys. When we get back, going to go through some of the gaming news because I only did half of the opening dash. And then after that, I'm probably just going to talk by myself for a little bit because I have to fill a lot of time because I was not expecting it to go this way. But I'll figure out a way. Don't worry, guys. And when we get back, though, Digital Dash is going to keep rolling. Talk some West Wing, some Kingdom Hearts 3 with Adam Grassani when he comes on later. It's still a good show ahead of you guys. Wow. Guys. I just said that live on air. Guys. A good show ahead of you, guys. But whatever. We'll see you in a little bit, guys. Stay tuned. You're listening to 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair. What is up, everybody? We are back here on 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair. We're in the second hour of the show. And boy, has it been a show so far. It's been crazy. It's been chaotic in a lot of ways. It's just me here in the studio talking to myself now, looking at all these posters. Just got finished talking with my friend Noah Grossman about the Super Bowl and all the things that transpired there and with the Knicks. And he was really just depressed. I don't know if anybody could tell. He was just sad. The man just he was not doing good, especially since I know he's got a lot of schoolwork to take care of right now. And something came up and he's got to deal with it. And the adage of the Patriots being awful and them winning last night in such a unspectacular way really was a terrible game, guys. Like, it was rough. And like I said, it's not just because the Pats won. There's been, I was really miserable, and it was one of the great American tragedies when the Falcons blew it to the Pats a few years ago. But I would never doubt anybody. I would never doubt in my mind I would never doubt anyone who said that was a great game. It was a great game. It was an excellent game, and it gave us a story. This one didn't give us anything. It gave us, wow, I wish the Saints were here, and it gave us, wow, Jared Goff is exactly who we thought he was, and it gave us, wow, Sean McVay didn't, he fell right into every trap or coaching scheme that Belichick had prepared, and wow, Brady didn't have to do much to get his Super Bowl ring, and also, wow, there was one touchdown scored. There was just so many reactions from last night's game that all have to do with how bad it was, and it's not just because the Patriots won, When the Patriots beat the Seahawks, there was no doubt it was a great game. When they beat the Falcons, great game. There's no doubt about that. When the Pats have won before, it's been really good football games. That was the one, one solace I took from the Pats being the Super Bowl this year where I was like, hey, they always give us good games, though. That's always one of the positives. But this year, nope. Nope. Just a miserable thing. Just a miserable night. We didn't even get good movie trailers. Not even good movie trailers, ladies and gentlemen. How awful is that? We can't even get good movie trailers. But anyway, since I'm kind of just trying to figure out a way to do the rest of the show for now, let's get into the gaming news because I only did the movie news because I interrupted it because Noah called in. So let's do that right now. For anybody who cares about this stuff like I do. First story up. Mario Kart Tour has been delayed. This was announced by Nintendo the other day. Very, very interesting that... Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. All right, there we go. It was very interesting when they announced this first that it was coming to mobile. I thought it was the right move. I thought it was the obvious move to make a Mario Kart game for mobile. I think that there are a lot of interesting things you could say about Nintendo when it comes to their properties translating to mobile devices and how they often, just for years, kind of neglected that side of the gaming industry, that they didn't give people what they wanted. And it's cool that they have a Mario Kart game coming out now, which of course has been delayed, which is unfortunate. But another thing that happened was Dr. Mario World was announced. Now, all my friends who are listening know that I love Dr. Mario, and here's why. Because I use him in Super Smash Brothers, constantly. He's my favorite in Melee, which is the only game I'm possibly good at Smash Brothers in. I'm terrible at Ultimate, I'm terrible at Brawl, I'm terrible at all of them. I'm not good at Super Smash Brothers. And they announced a new Dr. Mario game called Dr. Mario World, which will be, I assume, in the same form, in the same respect as the original Dr. Mario, which came out back in 1990 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. So it's been a long time since, aside from Smash Brothers, that we've seen anything Dr. Mario related, really. Now, I don't consider this necessarily a groundbreaking, shocking, kind of insane announcement, but it is cool that they're bringing this, and they're clearly trying to, because Dr. Mario is a puzzle title, and it is a fun puzzle game. And they're clearly trying to capture that mobile market of those, kind of cheap, not cheap, I shouldn't say cheap, but those simple puzzle games that make a lot of money, a la Candy Crush and, maybe Words for Friends you could throw in there, Word Scrabble, all those type of like puzzle games that really work really well. And they're clearly trying to take one property of theirs, which is a puzzle game, and kind of cash in on that whole thing. It's going to be free, but it's going to have some in-app purchases, obviously, that they say will be important for you to progress through the game. I assume very similar to Super Mario Run, which released back in 2016. And hopefully it's not something too pay-to-winny. I'm hoping that it isn't. I don't want to assume that this is going to be pay dividends for Nintendo, but it is cool, like I said. The big overall thing about these two announcements that I want to talk about is it's good that Nintendo's shown a willingness to kind of avoid their past history of, just being like kind of a conservative company. I'm not talking about politics. I'm saying about their business model, which has been, I remember when the NES Classic came out back a couple years ago, and they intentionally, I mean, they didn't literally say that they did this intentionally, but they definitely did, is what I'm trying to say, that they only had enough stock for like 1,000. They only made like 1,000 of those things for the entire world. So if you went to a shop, there was only like 2 of them, and they only had like 20 per state in the U.S. Like, it was ridiculous. So they created this artificial demand. You know what I mean? This is what they do a lot, where they shorthand the amiibos and they shorthand all these things. They don't shorthand the Nintendo Switch when that's coming out, because they know that that's big and they are kind of losing right now in the console wars, and they need to make sure that they push that thing out and make it available for everybody as soon as possible. But with things like the NES Classic, SNES Classic, they intentionally do that. It's just a very anti-consumer thing to create artificial demand. It's like Nintendo loves, and I remember a joke of a family friend of mine said, like, they succeed despite their best efforts. There's a couple reasons behind that. One, because I think the gaming industry, the gaming media, kind of gives Nintendo a pass way too much on things for like nostalgic purposes, and the fact that everybody loves that they basically saved video games back in the mid-90s, and that they're like, like they're the kind of like the father video game company, and they love to rip Microsoft because they're the newest, and everyone kind of likes Sony, honestly. But people give Nintendo a pass on way too many things. Like, they don't report enough on how awful some of the things they do are, and how it would be so easy for them to do well if they just translated their properties to mobile or to other things. People just want to play your stuff. And for you to make it so hard for them to do that is just an interesting business move that I can't stand. You know what I mean? Maybe they have data that says, they're probably much smarter than me, that says that it pays out for them. Just feels weird that, not anymore. They're not in third place anymore in the, between the big 3 of Microsoft, PlayStation, Nintendo. But for them to be in last before the Switch came out and be pulling all this nonsense and acting like they're the ones who you should be grateful and all, you know what I mean? Like this attitude about them, and I can't stand it. But these developments of Mario Kart World 2 coming out has been delayed, and then they announce, Dr. Mario World coming to mobile. It just shows that they're willing to try and do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll have another Earthbound game. Maybe they'll start bringing those games back, make it easier for you to play instead of relying on emulators. So yeah, that's my thing. And usually I'm a person who's like anti-piracy. I mean, not usually. I am anti-piracy. But it's like with Nintendo, I'm almost like, you're kind of getting what you deserve, because people want to play your stuff, and you make it impossible for them to do that. So that's why they go online and search up Earthbound emulator, or, maybe not Mario 3, but some other kind of obscure-ish games, because they just want to play it. You know what I mean? You make it so hard for them. If you release Pokemon Red for like $10 on the App Store, people would pay for it. Not even the Game Boy Advance version, like the remastered one. No, they like the Game Boy Color one. People would pay like $10 for that app, and you'd make a lot of money off of that. But whatever. Moving on now, after my little Nintendo rant to the next story, a new Titanfall Battle Royale game is set to be released, or I should say revealed today. It could have been revealed just now, but I've been busy doing the show. And yeah, so reading from IGN right now, if my computer would load, that'd be awesome. Everything's just not going my way today. Computer won't load. My guests changed their times. I thought I was getting an assistant DJ. That didn't happen. Just not one of my best days, guys. It's fitting considering how awful last night was. But anyway, reading from IGN. It looks like an update has actually just happened as I was away. Respawn CEO Vince Zampella confirmed the planned unveiling of a new game titled Apex Legends, as rumored, via his Twitter account late Sunday night. He later added that the unveiling of Apex Legends will indeed happen on Monday, February 4th, beginning with a teaser at 8 a.m. Pacific time and a full unveiling of the game at noon the same day. So that should be in about... it should have happened actually already. But Interesting. So it's apparently got like a Titanfall-esque game, but it's going to be trying to do the whole Battle Royale model, which is obviously what they've been trying to do with, which a lot of gaming things have tried to do ever since the explosion and the phenomenon of Fortnite. So it's really cool to see. I was really sad when I saw that Titanfall 2, which was reviewed super well and everybody said it fixed all the problems that the original game had, that it just got lost in the mud of a bunch of other releases, thanks to EA, because EA's ridiculous and they decided to release. They competed against themselves when Titanfall 2 came out, where they had, I think it was Titanfall 2, and then they had Star Wars Battlefront 2, like the same month, and everyone's like, why are you doing this? It makes no sense. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but I hope that this thing does well, and from that respect, because I think Respawn's a pretty good developer. And I think it was unfortunate that they kind of got messed up. They got screwed over a bit because of what happened with the whole management of their thing. But moving on to another EA story, EA and Anthem. Okay, so Anthem is a game that people have been anticipating for a while, but the hype has kind of been dying down through just weird advertising and shaky kind of stories. And reading from VG247, EA tweeted a convoluted breakdown of Anthem's various release dates and demo access, and Twitter couldn't wait to call the publisher out on it. Tweet shared a chart detailing how, why, when, where, and on which plane of existence players would be able to play Anthem and the upcoming demo this weekend. So you guys should all just check this out. Even if you're not into video games, you should check out this chart. You know what I mean? It's got on the left, what is that called? XY axis? I don't know how to describe the chart over radio waves, but whatever. There's like standard pre-order, Legion, like what version of the game you get, and then on the top it has the release date for it. So it says standard pre-order, then you've got Legion of Dawn pre-order, then you've got EA Access for Xbox One, and then Origin Access Basic for PC and Origin Access Premier. Then they've got for the first column for the release date, Demo Access on February 1st, 2019, Early Access Full Game on February 15th, 2019, Play First Trial 10 hours on February 15th, 2019, and Full Game on February 22nd, 2019. And there's so many X's and checkmarks. Seriously, you guys have to look this up. It's the most convoluted thing I've ever seen in my life. And it is a good example of why the Anthem might be one of the big failures we get, and it might kill BioWare, which is unfortunate because they're a great developer who are behind the Mass Effect series, and this is the game they've been working on for a while. I think the game could still be good. I don't think there's been necessarily any... There has been reasons to think that it won't be a good game, but all the release date and all the marketing, it's just this thing might be doomed. But I'm really curious to see how it shakes out. But clearly, like, there's all these different versions. Like, what is going on? You know, I really recommend it. Just look up Anthem release date schedule, and you'll find the graphic for it. It is hilarious. The next story, though, just a tiny little thing, is that from GameIndustry.biz, Microsoft is bringing Xbox Live to Switch and mobile. Right, like I said, reading from GameIndustry.biz, Microsoft has inadvertently revealed its plans to bring Xbox Live to Switch and mobile after submitting a session report for GDC 2019. In the description for a GDC session titled Xbox Live, Growing and Engaging Your Gaming Community Across iOS, Android, Switch, Xbox, and PC, the platform holder revealed its plans to release a new Xbox development kit. Get a first look at the SDK to enable game... I don't feel like reading all this. Although Microsoft already requires an Xbox Live login for Minecraft on all other platforms, save for PlayStation, this should allow developers to implement Xbox Live cross-platform support, such as achievements and multiplayer, directly into their games. So, for those who don't speak geek like I do when it comes to gaming, basically they're going to have a lot of their services be available on some of those third-party games on other systems, aside from PlayStation. Basically everything but PlayStation. They don't like PlayStation. They're the big rival. So, it should be interesting to see how they work that. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to work that. Like I said, I just kind of found this morning, honestly. And I just thought it was interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on it. But, yeah. And moving on to the last story. It's a Kingdom Hearts 3 related story. And it is from VG247. It's that their sales were really good. From the UK, anyway. I don't believe we have the sales in the US yet. Kingdom Hearts 3 made its UK debut at the top of the charts. It launched last week and has set a record for the series when it comes to UK sales as the most successful title in the franchise to date. It's also the first time a Kingdom Hearts game has topped the UK charts. As GameIndustry.biz notes, they don't extend further back than Kingdom Hearts 2 on PS2. I'm sorry, the sales numbers don't extend farther back before that. But KH3 has still outperformed the various interim spin-offs and sold over double the amount of units as Kingdom Hearts 2. PS4 sales accounted for 82%, with the rest on Xbox One. As always, the data is based on physical copies only. So that's interesting. And Resident Evil 2 dropped at number 2. And also, apparently, in Japan, it sold 600,000 copies at launch. That is Kingdom Hearts 3 that sold 600,000 copies at launch. We're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 later, so I'm not going to get into it too much right now. But, you know, I'm looking forward to it, I guess, you know, in a way. I think that, not looking forward to it, I'm sorry, looking forward to talking about it. I've been playing it rather extensively. I'm about 10 hours in, I think. I got to play a good amount, especially on the Thursday. Or it was Tuesday when the game came out that I was able to get a good amount in. But it's, I'm enjoying it so far, but I just have a lot of thoughts. And it's hard to talk about Kingdom Hearts in full. You know, it's just a really complicated series. So I apologize to anybody who's expecting a conversation they can really understand fully. But, you know, I'll try and make it as fun and engaging for you as possible. That's it for the gaming news. And for reads of the week, not going to lie, I got lazy this week. Didn't do a lot of reading. I did reading for school, but I did not do a lot of reading for myself. But I do have one story, which is at Super Bowl 53. Kaepernick's presence is still felt everywhere. This is from SB Nation by a writer named Natalie Weiner. I think it's Weiner. I don't know how to spell her name exactly. Or pronounce her name exactly. Weiner is how you pronounce her name. Or spell her name. Man, I'm a mess today, guys. I'm sorry. And it's really just a good piece and a good look in the fact that, first of all, I think it's quite hilarious that that the NFL and all of its conglomerates and its little meat people inside are like still talking about Colin Kaepernick. Like, it's just amazing to me that this guy who was talented for sure and had some moments as a young quarterback, that you didn't if you just told the team, like, let's look at like what the NBA would do in this situation. They probably would have just told the team, hey, can someone just pick up this guy? You can make up an excuse, say that he would look terrible at practice, or not look terrible, but say like, we tried him out. Teams didn't even try this guy out. Like, it's so obvious, and, you know, these are my opinions only, of course, that he was being blackballed. Like, it's so obvious. Like, you can't tell me that guys who haven't played an NFL snap in 5 years, Josh Johnson for the Washington Redskins did this, who hasn't played in, like, 3 years, hasn't thrown a pass, that he gets a tryout before Colin Kaepernick. You know, like, you cannot tell me that is just because of football reasons. It's not. Everybody agrees on that. Now, of course, it is their prerogative as a private company to decide, you know, who they want to hire or not hire. That's fine. But I'm just saying, don't make up this nonsense about, first of all, that you think politics should stay out of your sport, because you clearly don't, because you had the Arizona Cardinals owner tweet from the Arizona Cardinals official Twitter account supporting the nomination of Robert Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court, which that didn't age well, surely. This happened before the whole allegations came out, of course, but I'm just saying, like, that does not age well. And then you had the issue of, what was it? You had the issue, I'm forgetting what the other part was. But there's a couple more things where clearly the NFL got into politics, clearly. But they just do not like this individual certain politics, which essentially, in my opinion, boil down to protesting racism and the systemic inequality that kind of exists in this country, and just, you know, police brutality and stuff like that. And I don't agree with everything Colin Kaepernick has said. I think he's actually done some things really, really wrong, and I think that it's unfortunate some of the things he's done, like his Fidel Castro comments and him wearing the socks that have the pigs, like police, like the illustration of police as actual pigs, like the animal. I didn't agree with stuff like that, and I thought that was unnecessary. But I do agree with his basic stance of protest, and I think that it is unfortunate that the NFL thought that this was the worst thing that could ever happen, and then the whole Donald Trump thing kicked in. So the piece goes into stuff like that, and I thought it was a really good read for anybody who's on the fence or just wants to understand, like, the think space of the NFL right now, that echo chamber of owners, and how weird. It's just weird to me anyway. But yeah, I recommend that one. That's my only read of the week. I promise next week I'll try and get some more, because I like doing this. I like recommending different type of pieces from a variety of different writers out there, because I'm a big fan of writing. And you know who else is a big fan of writing? The Montclarian newspaper. As if you guys might know, I'm one of the assistant editors there for the entertainment section, and you know, there's really lots of good stuff being put out, and they've been doing great this year. Seriously, like, I think they're killing it so far this semester. So shout out to the Montclarian peeps. They've been just absolutely killing it, whether it be social media and or just the actual content they've been writing, and, you know, the profiles and movie reviews I think have been excellent, and just a lot of the opinion pieces, just really, really good stuff. And I highly recommend you guys checking that out. You can pick up the hard copy of the issue every Thursday around like various bins around campus, or you can go to themontclarian.org to check out the articles online. So yeah, I really recommend that, guys. I think it's really great. And support your, try and support your local newspaper. They do really good stuff, guys. Seriously. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. And I can't wait for my first piece to come out whenever I choose to write one, because I've been really busy and I've been a little bit lazy when it comes to writing stuff for the Montclarian anyway. So yeah, that's basically it, guys, for the opening dash. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and when we get back, I'm going to talk about The West Wing, a show that I started watching with my mom, actually, who I believe is listening right now, over the winter break. It's her favorite show ever, and honestly, I probably should have had her call in, but it's whatever. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and just lightly talk about politics and how I think the show makes you wish for more normalcy when it comes to the Oval Office. But I'll get into that in a little bit. So for now, guys, we're going to take a break. Remember, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair to The Digital Dash. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. WMSC Upper Montclair. We're back. We're ready to talk about the West Wing, as it is called. A great show. But on the line now, I believe, I could be wrong, is my mom. You there, Mom?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. That's
Hi,
awesome.
Javier.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
That's awesome. As usual, saving me from possible doom. My mom saving my show today. I texted her last second to say, hey, why don't you come on and talk about The West Wing? Because we've been watching it together ever since the winter break. You there, Mom?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. As I was saying, you excited to be on right now?
Yes, a little excited and a little nervous, as always.
That's okay. It's reasonable. It's a reasonable thing. So we started watching this over the winter break, and we now, as of Saturday, finished the second season of The West Wing. Can you talk a little bit about the show and how you first got into it? Because it is, as you've told me, like your favorite show ever.
I'm not really sure how I got into it. It may have been that I saw some of the awards shows, and it continuously, for at least two consecutive years, won awards for best drama, best actors, those kinds of things. And so I decided to check it out. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, really quickly, do you have the radio on behind you?
I do.
Okay, turn that off a little. Yeah, because people on air can now hear a little bit just in the background, like the 15-second delay.
Done.
So yeah, done. Okay, cool. That's good.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. And so you got into it, and you're so into it, in fact, that you have multiple copies of the entire series. Is that right?
Yes. I don't have the patience to wait until they did a deluxe edition, so of course I purchased the seasons individually, mm-hmm. and then they came out with a deluxe version that had all the seasons in there, and then some extra stuff, and so I had to get that, of course.
Right, and we should also note that this was before the streaming phenomenon kicked in. You know what I mean? This is like mid 2000s. Yes. The Netflix wasn't available, so you had to basically just get all these entire DVD box sets and stuff. Just to make sure you had it. And one of the deluxe editions that you got really looks cool. They organize it in like this little folder, this like presidential binder folder, which I really enjoy. So personally, one thing I didn't know about this show was I didn't know that it was going to be as grounded and real and dramatic as it is also conversational. Because for some reason, me being the movie guy, I didn't know that this was created by Aaron Sorkin, who is one of the great screenwriters and, overall film people that we have just as a writer. For those who don't know, he also worked on The Newsroom and The Social Network, which was robbed of Best Picture infamously back in 2010, I believe. And this is where he basically, I assume, his big first initial claim to fame is. And, Mom, let me tell you, I love this show. It's really good.
I'm so glad because I love it too. And it's the writing. It really is the writing. And also the directing, how they go from one thing to the next.
Right.
But the writing is really exceptional to me.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about this is, the show ended. I don't remember exactly what year it ended, but it ended, a decent amount of time ago. And so it's like funny because when I was a kid, you were always telling me like, this is your favorite show. I would hear that music theme playing, and and I would always be so confused. Now, I don't think I would have appreciated the show as much as I do now if I watched it when I was younger. I think that's fair to say.
I think that's true. It's a little bit more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
It's at a different level. So if you were in grammar school when I first started talking with you about it, a lot of it would have gone over your head, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, we just finished season 2, and obviously everything that happens, but I don't. And I've only up to the second season, which, I guess I could talk about it a little bit, just because this is kind of an older show, so it's fine to spoil things, so fair warning for everybody. Second season ends with Mr. Martin Sheen, otherwise known as the President, Mr. President Jed Bartlett, kind of having this moment of renouncing his religion after a close friend of his died, and it's the season finale of the second season, and it was just captivating, and every sense of it. And he has this great scene in a church where he says all these things, and he renounces his religion. He's upset. And when the episode ends, he first says, like, you can have Hoynes, who is the vice president. He said, I've done all this good for you, Lord our Father, or whatever he says, to paraphrase. And then he basically says, fine, I've done all this good stuff for you, and you have this tragedy happen. So now you can have this other guy who the show is kind of pinned as being not an evil person, but just kind of a politician, so to speak. A very, very politician-y politician, if that makes any sense. And then the episode ends after he has this moment, and I mentioned this to you, where it felt like The Godfather 2, Part 2, I should say, where it incorporates the past so seamlessly with the present,
Yes.
And I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was awesome and exceptionally well done. And it culminates in him having a moment where he says, yeah, I'm actually going to run again, and I'm going to win, which is a crazy thing to say. And obviously some of these things sound kind of, I don't want to say mundane, but ordinary. If you haven't watched the show before, you're like, okay, cool. Where's the action? There's plenty of action in the show, but it comes through the written word. And that's what's so amazing is it's not a show that really goes into multiple different settings, I should say. There's time jumps and stuff like that, but mostly it takes place in the White House. But it's still able to keep my attention throughout because the writing is just that good. And it's on another level of just being conversational, being funny. That's another thing that people might not know if they haven't heard of the show before. And if you tell them, oh, it's about Washington, it's about, politics, they might not expect that it'd be funny. Is that fair to say, you think?
Yes, I think so. They pepper the script
mm-hmm.
with funny points
mm-hmm.
To break up, I guess, the drama. But the jokes are funny, the whole
mm-hmm.
situation that they describe. And it's between the characters, so there's
right.
Don is always a person who's, as Josh says, is good for a joke for the day,
right.
because she's gullible. She believes a lot of things that,
mm-hmm.
and they don't tell her, what's really going on or burst her bubble on that. So I really enjoy the balance that they have.
And I think the Donna character, who's the assistant to Josh Lyman, who's one of the main characters, with the performance from Bradley Whitford, and she's kind of like the audience avatar, it feels like, where she's the one who's the most out of political realm. She's smart and she gets things and whatnot, but she's also trying to figure out things that are going on. You know what I mean? So she kind of represents the audience, which is key. I think every kind of show like that needs that, or movie. And
yeah, I think she's great for teaching you. Remember, I'm always telling you, you learn a lot from this show.
Right.
About how things work and the different sides to issues
mm-hmm.
that gives you a more kind of balanced view about the things that are going on even today. There
mm-hmm.
is legitimate arguments generally for almost everything
mm-hmm.
on both sides.
It's great.
And they teach you about procedure and other kinds of issues that present themselves during the script. Don is great because he's always explaining to her, mm-hmm. and that's the segue into kind of learning a lesson about
right.
something about American politics and government.
Right. And I think one of the cool things about that is, it is a show that's centered around a Democratic president, a Democratic party, but some people, maybe you're conservative, you're a Republican, and maybe that initially turns you off. And you're like, okay, here we go. They're going to push all the leftist ideology and all that stuff. but actually it is a very reasonable approach to everything. And that's what's so amazing about it. I mean, there's literally a conservative character who's extremely smart and puts some of the people in their place. That happens towards the beginning of the second season. And I really enjoyed her character and what she's done so far. And that's what I love about the show is it reminds you of just it's very idealistic. You know what I mean? It's definitely a very idealistic show about how the government, or I should say like the Oval Office should work and how it might work sometimes and what it's capable of. But like you said, it just teaches you a lot. You know, it teaches you that guess what? There are a lot of different sides to arguments. There's no one definitive answer to a lot of things. And a lot of times you need both and you need both parties. And I think that I remarked to you a lot where after watching the show, I go like, this country really does have an amazing like governmental system, you know, like it's, you know, I have my opinions and I definitely lean towards the left when it comes to my politics, but there's no doubt that this system really works well, and it's one of the best out there, if not the best. And I think that the show emphasizes that without being too rah-rah about it, if you know what I mean.
Preachy about it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
not saying
so.
like get out of our country if you don't like it, but more saying, hey, we could be better, but also keep in mind that we're really far ahead. And sometimes people forget that, I think, when we talk about it, especially in today's climate. Which is one of the things I want to talk about just briefly. I don't want to get too political, where it's kind of sad watching this show just a little bit in the sense that I wish we had this sense of normalcy back with the White House, where it's every day you've got like a tweet or a different like kind of, I don't want to say a legal action taken because that's not necessarily always the case, but an action that is kind of unprecedented and isn't usually how the Oval Office operates, if that's fair to say. And I think that I miss that, and it makes you wish for a presidency that was like this, that really does listen to both sides. It really, really does, and that sounds like kind of cliche almost to say, to listen to both sides, but it's true, and I think the show really emphasizes that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing that happened about this show, which I enjoy, is the performances are excellent across the board. Allison Janney, who we haven't talked about yet, plays the press secretary, and she's excellent. And I see why she won all of the Emmy Awards like almost every year when the show was coming out. And it reminds me of, because I remember when I, Tonya came out last year, and I thought it was ridiculous that Allison Janney won the Oscar because I just thought it wasn't her best thing. And this emphasizes that even more. It is definitely not her best thing. Like, I, Tonya, I mean. This is clearly like levels above what she won the Oscar for. Just a quick aside there. What do you think is... Just in our rewatch so far, are there any details that you've picked up, new details you think? Like things that you may not have noticed before, or like kind of impressions, perhaps, of things that you didn't realize the first 3-4 times you've watched this series?
I think with your help, I have a better appreciation for the change in what happens with the camera. Mm-hmm. I really, before, was more focused on the script, those kinds of things. But you keep making comments about how the camera zooms in or zooms out, or how they switch from here to there, or how they were able to capture something in a continuous scene or something. So I'm learning to appreciate that more. So that's something I look at more these days.
Mm-hmm. For sure. The music's good.
Oh, the music is great.
The music is great. And I think that I have multiple episodes, I think, just to describe them briefly, that I've liked so far, like, tremendously. I think there's 3 that come to mind. Or actually, like, technically, like, 5. But the first one was, like, the 6th episode of the season, where it was, I think it was Mr. Willis of Ohio was the name of the episode. And it was someone who had to take over as a congressman. And that's the other thing that's important is I don't know the full legal mumbo-jumbo as much as you and some other people might. So it's been helpful having you by my side to explain things, because sometimes I miss a lot of things. It's a very, it can be a little bit of an insider baseball type of show sometimes. But it still works. That's not a complaint. I like learning about these things. It's awesome. But that episode basically was an episode about this guy who, for once, kind of put politics aside. You know what I mean? And he votes what he actually thought was right and made a compelling argument. It was cool. And another thing that happens is there's like this bar scene, and it has to do with the whatever they're called. What are they called? The Secret Service having to protect the president's daughter and that whole thing. And Martin Sheen's great in it. And it's just cool because you know this from just me living in the house. I'm always just fascinated by what the Secret Service has to do, I think, to keep the president safe and the family safe. I'm always just interested to see, like, how does that work? How can you have a life? You know, little things like that. I enjoyed that episode a lot. I also enjoyed the not the season finale as much as I enjoyed the season 2 premiere, which is, like I mentioned before, with the past and the present. It brings up the past just a little bit, little snippets of it, and it basically shows you after the shooting that happens in the present against the president, that they then go back in time and show you how did this even come to be, which I didn't even realize. Yeah, I don't know who any of these people are, or I shouldn't say who they are, but their origin. You know what I mean? How did this come to pass? And one of the things that they reveal is that Jed Bartlett was not even close to being the front runner candidate. You know what I mean? He was not even close. Just as we just passed the top of the hour here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, talking about the West Wing. And they show the past of all the characters, and that was really cool. They have one episode where it was this leader of this really bedraggled kind of third world country who just bad things are happening there. And it shows the kind of character that exists with the president and his staff. And that was really cool to watch. And then also the latest one we saw, which was Two Cathedrals, the season 2 finale, which I talked about a little bit earlier. Are there any episodes that come to mind for you that you liked a lot?
Well, so far, based on the 2 seasons, I did like Mr. Willis.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit of a hint of how politics sometimes holds too much sway.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mr. Willis, you remember, he had gotten his marching orders from the head of the committee, the chairman, on how to vote on something. And he ultimately ended up changing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you mentioned, he was open to hearing all sides and decided, you know what, you convinced me. I'm going to change my vote. And they tried basically to have him hold the line to vote along party lines. And I just wish, I really do think we need to, that's taking politics too far. We really do need to make sure that we're keeping the country in mind first. So I really liked that. But it made me a little sad because that little piece, we kind of have it magnified now in terms of party politics.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I liked a lot, I do like how all of them come together.
Right.
And it wasn't all perfect, so it wasn't a perfect coming together, and there were difficult times, and each one of the characters has issues, including the president, which is nice to see. He's not perfect either. Nobody is. And they have differences. So I did enjoy that. The one that you referred to regarding the foreign leader, I like the fact that the expected bashing of corporations by the left occurs during that session, but they also end up showing that the corporations are not just being difficult and greedy and this, that, or whatever. There's some real practical consequences to why sometimes what you want to do can't be done.
Right. It's a really sad episode where basically
it really is.
The people are saying we're going to give. That's not one of the
ones I'd like to watch again. It's just too emotionally.
That one's really taxing.
Sad, yeah.
But it felt very real, and there's definitely been something similar to that.
You call them third world countries, but they're just a lot of countries that are poor and don't have the resources that this country has had. Are developing, but it does mean you don't have an ambassador who comes to the United States. The president himself of that country had to come. So that one made me sad. And then in the last scene, the one we just finished, the season ending, since I grew up being raised in the Catholic religion, I watched the president as he's spouting in Latin, which of course he's the one who knows the Latin.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And they make fun of him, and he knows that they make fun of him. He says, you're going to tell us the origin in Latin of the yam and something like that. One of the comments that was made when he basically thinks that God has done this terrible thing that has him thinking of not running and deciding, at least initially, that he's not going to run. And on top of that, you learn in this episode that he didn't have a hunky-dory childhood either. His father was a difficult father, a taskmaster.
Yeah, which
and
I called
it has
when
had
we were
its
watching
impact
too.
on him too.
Yeah, which I called when we were watching too.
Yeah, you did. You anticipated it.
Yeah, I was
it
like,
takes a lot for me to stay quiet because I kind of know
No, I
what's
know.
coming.
And I always tell you not to tell me anything either.
I know, and I just slap on this stupid smile,
Yeah.
so that I keep quiet and don't let tip my hand about what it is that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes I will ask a question that may be a spoiler, but I genuinely don't know if it's a spoiler sometimes, where I'm just wondering if something's been brought up. So, but we've worked that out, and it's done really well. And you haven't spoiled anything at all. I think that I think this show is for everyone in a lot of ways, and I think they shouldn't think, oh, it's a politics show, and oh, it's this, and oh, it's that. It's going to be super legal mumbo jumbo. It's also extraordinarily funny. It is really well acted, and it will make you care about politics to a sense of, wow, like this system really works really well, even though it needs to be improved. Or I shouldn't say need, but it could, and we shouldn't throw that away, the idea of maybe this could get better, so outright. And the performances are great, like I said. I think that it's really surprising because I was supposed to start watching Game of Thrones over the winter because everyone's telling me, you got to watch Game of Thrones, you got to do this. But then I looked at that and I was like, this is like 70 episodes. It's like really, I mean, if West Wing's dramatic, then I assume that Game of Thrones is even worse because you've read the books. And I was just like, I don't know. And this show just makes me happy. I'm just happy to be watching it. It's sad at times, don't get me wrong. But I'm just happy by the grounded sort of just everyday man thing that it kind of has going for it, even though these are people that are in incredible positions of power and influence. And it really shows you, like, there's a lot that goes on here. And I thought it was really interesting, like you were saying, with the pharmaceutical companies where they didn't go down the stereotypical, like, they're just rich and they want all the money, greedy stuff, where the company is willing to work with sending medicine, but they were like, they need to take, I think the line is, they need to take medication at a certain time. And then they said, okay, then do that. And they said, well, they don't have watches. You know what I mean? They literally can't tell time. That's how poor this country is. So it's like they literally can't. Like they're trying, but it's more complicated than just businesses not wanting to help people sometimes. And I think that's what the show does, and I think it's extraordinarily effective. It definitely has a more liberal slant to it, for sure. I mean, the party that we focus on is a leftist party. But don't mistake that for, in my opinion, the rhetoric that's shouted today. You know what I mean? Where I think a lot of the political talk today, whether it be on the news or from politicians themselves or pundits and podcasts and talk shows, it seems to be like there's a lot of hyperbole going on. And in this show, it just doesn't seem like there's that. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of smart people who care about the country.
I would agree. It's like the intern that I think she becomes an intern, or they hire her, and she's a Republican. And the initial reaction is, well, we won the election, so why are we hiring her?
Yeah.
And it turns out the president said, no, hire her. She's smart, and she gives you the other side and everything. And he likes, basically, just like smart people to have a discussion with, so you make the better decision.
Right.
And it's great to have that when they discuss the Second Amendment and certain other pieces, you know, what are classically the Republican positions. I thought that was insightful. Right. I think a lot of what we have today is a lot of superficial discussion of issues.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. And just trying to jump to the punchline. What's going to pick up what's going to be like he really went off here. You know what I mean? It's just too theatrical, I think, sometimes. Yeah,
a little bit, you know. So I do like some of the shows that go into things in greater depth. Because there you learn. I don't learn when the only thing that you keep repeating is essentially, you know, the headlines.
Yeah.
So that I like about the show. It does discuss some of those things, and that they struggle with it. And when she decides to join the staff, she says it. Hey, You can think of them as superior, you can think of them as incorrect or whatever, but they're patriots.
Right. That's a great line.
They genuinely believe what they believe.
And she's right about everything.
You can't fault people for that.
And she was right about a lot of the things that she says in that episode about them being smug sometimes. And they're funny. Like, that's the whole thing. They're very funny and very smart people who, and she has a good complaint where it's like they put other people down by showing off how smart they are. And she's right. Like, the entire episode, she's basically right. Even if I disagree with some of her political statements, it's like she makes an argument. And that's cool. And I think that is a very effective thing to do.
And it educates you. It teaches you.
Right.
You learn more. You don't know. You don't therefore just jump and assume that you can't compromise or that someone else is right and that you're the one who's wrong.
Right.
I think all of those things are important. It's also very it's very complex. I mean, I'm always saying to you, listen, because to me, every word, Sorkin does a tremendous job at teaching with his script at every single point. And all the characters, they're great actors. They are an ensemble cast. No one is really a minor character. They play, they act. Their acting is tremendous. It's so human and real. And they're not perfect either, but they're very strong characters. You know, as actors, they're very strong. Nobody takes a back seat to the others. And that could easily, I think, have happened with some of the characters that you have. And each one has, their unique personality.
Everyone's necessary, too, except for one character that they introduce in Season 1 who just disappears in Season 2.
Yeah.
Which I don't, just not to get into too much, but one of the characters who's kind of like I don't know how to describe her. I don't know how to describe her character because I'm, forgetting now what she was like. But she was, spunky. I think that would be the word for it. Yeah. But I think that they realized that Donna, who we've mentioned, the assistant to Josh, was just more effective and more likable, and that it didn't make sense to have these two characters who essentially were kind of almost fulfilling a similar role, almost. And they just dropped her.
I remember I commented to you, I didn't care for her role because she continued to go back, always sticking in jibes about her past relationship with one of the characters.
Yeah.
Get over it already. I mean, I don't want to keep hearing that piece. And she kept bringing that from the past almost as if she really isn't over it.
Right. But then this other character, Donna, I think they just realized she's just better and people like her more, so let's just roll with that, which was really cool. Just totally without mention, she's just not in the second season. It's not even like they write her off, she's just not there. And I remember when you were telling me when we first started that you were like, I want you to, do you have a least favorite character? And I was thinking about it, and I didn't know for sure, and I think I would have come to the same conclusion you had, because you were like, yeah, that's the character. And I guessed that. I was like, I'm guessing that this character is the one that you don't like. I forgot her name, but Amy, I believe.
Mandy.
Mandy. All right. Somewhat close. But, yeah.
I remember the names. I've seen the, series
yeah, you've seen
5 times.
Yeah. It's like me with Friday Night Lights, which I've seen 6 times. Or Naruto, I guess, which I've seen 25 times somehow. And I've been rewatching it lately, too, because I just want to be in a good mood. I rewatched an episode last night after the Pats one. I was just I need to be in a better mood. But, Mom, do you have any last words to say about The West Wing?
I would recommend everyone just watch it. Have an open mind and look at how... And I'm a believer. I'm I like to think of myself as a practical idealist.
Right.
We can do better. People will sacrifice their own interests for the good of the country and for good of others. So, and it kind of takes you to a place that shows you it is possible, and gets rid of maybe a lot of the anger,
right?
That's in the climate now in terms of our just being able to discuss things. I believe we can make it work.
And this place, I think, can make it work more than other places and more than other countries.
Yeah.
We have the tools in place.
I think it shows you that it's possible. I mean, you don't think of it as being so idealistic that it's not possible to happen. It's very practical. You see it.
You do.
And sometimes they're the ones who lose and say, you know what? We lost this one. Let's just get on with it. And that's what we do.
Yeah. I remember, I think it's a line in the second episode of the second season where Josh makes a comment where he's like, what do you call a country that fights for the rights for people that want to destroy it? I think is the line that he has. Yeah. And then they said, God bless America, which is true. It really is incredible. But yeah, Mom, this was a great discussion. I've loved having you on. I don't know why I didn't tell you before that I was going to be talking about the West Wing today. But whatever. It was a lot of fun, and as usual, you saved me, as you always have.
It's my pleasure. That's what moms do.
Thanks so much, Mom. I'll see you later.
Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.
And
Houston, the Hawk has landed.
And we're back, everybody, here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Sorry about that. I played the little ad thing ID there by accident and just decided to let it play through. I didn't transition into that too well, but whatever. Just finished talking with my mom about the West Wing and politics and how, there's a lot of good out there. And now, also joining me in the studio, I think, is Mr. Alejandro Arceo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Oh, that was your mom. That was cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Cool.
fun. We were just talking about the West Wing. Have you ever seen the West Wing before?
No. What
No?
is it?
It's a show about politics in Washington.
Huh.
It is an Emmy Award-winning, quadrillion-winning show, and it is excellent. I only finished the first 2 seasons,
Oh, wow.
but we just started watching it together, and it's a lot of fun. It's really good.
That's cool.
It's excellent, actually. What have you been up to?
Well, just a lot of work this weekend. Oh, I finally started my substitute teaching job at my old high school.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that been?
So many people thought I was a student. I mean, like, I get it, but it's just like I couldn't go anywhere with teachers being like, "You can't be down here," or like, "Get the class." I'm like, I'm a substitute, or it's like, "What are you doing?" Or students like, "Hey, we don't have a sub," and I was like, "Hi guys, I'm the sub." Like, "You are?"
I remember I had like the worst substitute teacher of all time in middle school. It was just one of those people, this lady, Mrs. Toomey, I think was her name. I'm just going to give her a shout out. It's just why not? Who was just like, I guess, hated children. I don't know what it was. Not like mean, like she did mean things to us.
She was just
but
strict.
she just not even strict. It was like, what's wrong with you? Like we're like in the 5th grade. Like what? Kids aren't allowed to talk during lunch. What is this? What am I in a military school? That is like the post-apocalyptic raising the Spartan army where we can't do anything we want at all. I don't know. It was just like we called her Miss Too Mean, of course. Little play on words there for us middle schoolers. We thought we were really proud of it. But yeah, it was weird. And I was like, this is a terrible teacher. I was like, this is awful. Like, you're just mean to all of us. And you just assume that we're always up to something.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
They're retired and they want to do something for money, I guess. And
I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
When it's
enough
like,
about
when you
that.
get older people, yeah, it's because it's people that retire and then, yeah.
But yeah, what else has been up with you, man? You watched the Super Bowl last night?
It was trash. I'm sorry, but it's just like, because the thing is, they were stuck in like the same space in the like first 2 quarters forever, and the defense was weird, and it's just like, the score was 3-0 for a long time, and then it's just like I wanted the Rams to win, but of course the Patriots were going to win just because.
It's like they couldn't even win through a good game either.
No.
That was the thing. Like, at least give us a good game. The Pats usually have given us actually good games in the Super Bowl, but not this time.
Because I like it when it's back and forth, and both teams are really pushing. But it's like the Rams were just, it's like they were trying, and then the Patriots were just like, no, not today. Like, it's just those games, they're always weird. But more importantly, the internet is blowing up at Maroon 5, as you know.
Oh, man.
Because we all wanted Sweet Victory to be played. They said it would, but no, it was just a 5-second intro.
They alluded to it heavily that they would do it. Instead, it was just a reference that it looks like what I've been just seeing is that they basically stole it from Twitter, where like the whole like the trumpet's playing, but then it's the sicko mode thing. Yeah. That went viral on Twitter like a month or 2 ago, and I'm seeing like I saw it popping up on my feed where that guy was saying like they never asked me about this, and it looks like they just straight up used that beginning like or like with the trumpets and stuff, and then they just left it. I was like, would it have killed you to play Sweet Victory? Would it have really been that bad? No, everybody in the world would have been like, this is rad. No. But no, of course not, because you have to play a pop group that's 10 years past its prime. So that's awesome. Congratulations to the NFL. Yeah. So like Ariana Grande, we're gonna get in 9 years probably, where it's like she's on her like 6th studio album that like is but it had one cool song, and she's only gonna sing the stuff back when we liked her. That's the funny thing about it. Is always they'll say like not every halftime show I don't think has been someone that's past their prime. Like I think Bruno Mars is exceptional, and no one should ever speak ill of Bruno Mars again after what happened last night. Like that just shows that he was excellent. No, I mean Maroon 5.
Oh, okay.
Like, look at the comparison between the two. I think Bruno Mars was
even
out of this world.
Even last year, we had there was Justin Timberlake. He's up there in age, but he still performed what the people wanted to hear, and he put on a show last year. Like
I didn't like Justin Timberlake personally last year, but I thought that
I
thought he was another one that was
as a
past his
whole.
prime.
Yeah.
I thought he was another one that was way past his prime.
Yeah. Do you think it's because these artists they're getting older, so their singing voice just doesn't sound right live like how it used to, or what would you say?
I think it's simply that nobody they're not in their prime anymore. Lady Gaga was for sure. It would have been cooler if she was this year though, just because of the whole Star Is Born thing.
Yeah.
I've been saying this for a while. Like I just think that would have been more fun.
She's still in her prime. It's been 10 years.
She is.
It's been
she
10
is.
years and she still is.
Yeah, she is. But it just feels like eventually we're gonna get one of those things where, like I said, we're just gonna get all these artists that are just way past their prime. Clearly.
Yeah. Well, it's also because it's hard. It's really hard for who performs because they don't get paid. It's just for publicity and for usually they do it because whatever group or band is performing is trying to promote for a current or upcoming tour. It's usually just for those things. And so the NFL, it's like they choose, but they think they know, but they don't really know what the people want, I guess.
Yeah, they're really tone deaf, and they've been that way for a while.
They're just like, oh, what are some of the mainstream people from like 10 years ago? Maybe they're still good.
Yeah, maybe they're still good, and it's like why? Like, what are you doing? Like,
it's
just
like, why not people like SZA or Khalid?
SZA would have been great.
Or Khalid.
Khalid would have been great. Yeah, and it's not even like we're asking about these hardcore hip hop rappers who sometimes maybe their music is too political. It's like these people have just good songs. Also, by the way,
good singing voices and they're soulful.
Like Kendrick Lamar, that'd be one where they might be scared, oh no, is he? But I'm like, he also just has great songs.
He does
that aren't necessarily political.
And you can ask him, like you can go around with it.
Well, another thing was that a lot of people declined it because of
of course
they were boycotting Colin Kaepernick for that, and Rihanna I think was one of them famously too, and Cardi B, which Cardi B feels like a perfect she's in the conscience, like the mainstream, that is a person who is the right now, not before. That would have been good. I don't know if she would have been good, but I'm saying just from the standpoint of this is someone who's actually relevant right now.
Definitely.
And Maroon 5 is still a big band. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying
still touring and
nobody talks about Maroon 5 in a sophisticated what are they gonna do next kind of way. You know what I mean? Nobody talks about Justin Timberlake that way really.
It's just the people that first listen to them, the original fans that have kind of just stayed over the years. That's what's keeping these bands alive. It's just the true fans from the beginning, because it's like no one's really gonna go out of their way and let me become a fan now. It's like it does, but on average, you know what I'm saying. It's just people already know what they like, who to like, and who they're gonna give time to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Did you like any of the commercials?
Not really.
I thought the commercials were all right. There was a Cure Auto Insurance commercial that I think I'm the only one on the planet who saw. Nobody seems to recognize this one. It was when the girl was saying my head hurts or whatever, but then he's trying to tell her it's because you literally have a nail stuck in your head. And then she's not listening to him, and then he pretends to kiss her. That he gets it, that spits it out or whatever. It was just a really random, hilarious commercial to me.
Usually they're so raunchy, and it's just crazy that they're millions and millions of dollars for these slots.
Yeah, I always enjoy the commercials. I think that I think people always complain that the commercials were trashy. I'm like, what are you expecting though? You're gonna get
just a commercial.
You're gonna get better than average commercials during the Super Bowl in terms of quality. Yeah. I think people have this idea that you can watch the Super Bowl only for commercials and be entertained. No, you can't.
No,
it's just a nice side compliment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like you don't go for these big meals only to have appetizers and be like, these better be incredible. It's like the apps can be cool, but the main thing is the entree, which is the Super Bowl and the halftime show maybe.
Yeah, well put.
And I think that we didn't actually get a lot of that this year. The NFL 100 commercial was cool. I enjoyed that one. That one was really funny. Nice little like a very football fan referencing commercial. You know what I mean? People who don't follow football as much might not have gotten all the things, but it was cool to see those guys. Even some players I didn't recognize immediately.
They had a lot of media, like what's called television or movie preview. So they didn't have as many as they usually though. Well, it was a good amount.
They had an okay amount because all they really had was like Disney and whoever I think is it Fox or Paramount for or Universal behind the Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw movie, which is
what do you
totally
think about
weird. I don't know, man.
Well, here's the thing.
Fast and Furious is just quadrupled down on its insanity.
I still like it because of what it is, but
I haven't seen the 8th one yet, though.
it was decent. Now, here's the thing. That I thought it was gonna be the 9 film, but then when I saw it was just Hobbs and Shaw, and then I realized it says Fast and Furious Presents, I'm like, okay, it better be a spin-off.
Oh yeah. They released the trailer earlier this week, though. I think.
Yeah, and I saw it, and those are 2 cool characters, but I feel like, because honestly, like their dynamic was like, you saw like a good amount of it in the 8th one, because they worked side by side briefly, but now it's like they're doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, because it's like, there's supposed to be about 10 of these films, right? 10 is the last one. So now does this one count as their 9th? And then the last one's gonna wrap the whole series with the main people.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's like, and I always hate the argument that it's not even about cars anymore. It never was. Why won't people understand?
It's about family, man. What I'm saying, what I meant by my cars comment is like it's gotten just from it being about racing. I should say, was a better thing.
To using cars
as
to
like
perform heists.
and just action and fights, like all these things. Yeah, it's gotten nuts.
The first one was a heist movie, but
it was like Point Break.
Yeah, it was a heist movie, but the thing it revolved around using fast cars, and then it slowly became into these people that do these heists, they actually have skill, and then I guess they just tied in the government needs their help, and
and then they tripled down to this James Bond-esque like recruiting the most talented people in the world, and basically making it an action series about secretly extraordinarily diverse cast. By the way, people like don't realize it, and they don't make notion of it.
They're
really.
just so diverse, and they work together.
They work together, and it's fun. And they basically just decided we're just gonna have insane stunts that 100% don't have any realism to them at all, but it's fun, and we're all in. It's like it's interesting.
Come on,
it's like it's a self-aware franchise. You know what I mean? They get what people want, and they do it.
Come on, I mean, in the 7th one, are you really gonna tell me that you can drive a supercar through 3 buildings? Or 2 or 3 buildings.
Was so good, right?
Wasn't it great? It was a crazy scene.
It was awesome.
But it just made no sense,
They've tripled down on not making sense, and they just know that that's what people want.
I'm
is just
telling
crazy
you,
action.
Fast and Furious 7, that was the year that a lot of men cried. Because the final tribute to Paul Walker at the end.
My favorite's 5, personally. I think 5's the best.
Who doesn't love 5?
5 is... Well, 5 is when the movies... I think that
when they
picked
picked up...
When they genuinely were just good.
Yeah.
I think that 1 had like a fun, like cheesy, like some people ironically watch it and
liked it. Because it was the first one. The production was low. They didn't have much, pizzazz. It revolved around the acting and the racing.
Mm-hmm. And the acting, it's not like they had all-star actors in there.
Yeah.
I mean, Vin Diesel's pretty good, but like besides that.
Oh, now, yeah.
And now too.
The
second one was like...
It was just a fun little spin-off.
Yeah, cool. And it was like, I didn't like that. I thought it was pretty bad. Yeah, I thought it was bad.
A lot. I thought it was cool because we got...
Tokyo Drift I haven't seen in too long, so I don't want to comment on that.
It's
but weird. It's like, it became like a cult, like funny...
Roman Pierce, man.
Like people like those movies because it's just like fun to like them.
They're fun to watch.
But nobody would really be like, oh, that's a good movie. I think the 5th one, when that one came out, people were like, this is just a good movie. Like, it's a great action movie, great heist movie, and I love heist movies, so I'm all in on that.
The 4th one is when it really started, when you can tell the series really picked off, and then, there was so much character development because the 4th one was the first time we saw the original cast back.
Yeah. Or the 5th one, right?
Well, the 4th one, like the main cast, like Toretto and Sister. Yeah. And then the 5th one is when you got all that the extra. Like you got Gal Gadot, I forget Giselle.
Giselle.
You got Giselle, Han. No,
Gal Gadot is the person who plays. You mean the actress? Yeah, it's Gal Gadot.
No, I know, but she's Giselle. I just didn't think of her name.
Okay. I got confused, yeah. I still got football in my mind right now with Tom Brady.
Gal Gadot was Giselle in these movies. And it took me a while to realize that when Wonder Woman came out, I was like, oh, that's Gal Gadot. She's from. It
was really cool. And I loved how the end of 6 brought it all together, the post-credit thing.
Oh, it really did.
Because then it shows you that this all took place before Tokyo Drift. I was like, as someone who doesn't remember, maybe I haven't even seen Tokyo Drift, who doesn't remember that movie.
You saw Jason Statham just come out.
Yeah,
I was like,
I knew that the scene was famous, is that Han died.
Because during Tokyo Drift, you just saw the car hit him, but you never saw him get out. Because that wasn't until later.
Yeah, but it was just cool how even I knew that as someone who I was like, a famous scene is that Han dies, and everyone was talking about when 5 came out, where they're like, how is Han here? He died. And then here it happens, and they're like, nope, these all took place before. It was just brilliant.
So you know how...
I'm kind of back in on Fast and Furious now.
I know. And so you know how...
I'm excited, yeah.
And just one more remark. You know how, like, Letty died in the 4th one, right?
What happened?
Letty, how she died in the 4th one? Dom's girlfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, she was absent. She was only like in the beginning of the fourth one. She was absent for the fifth one. And you know how at the end credit was, it was leading up to the sixth one, and it was like she's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Now the actress, what's her name again? I always forget her name. But the actress, she was in the theaters watching it, and she saw her picture, and she was like, "What?" Yeah, they didn't even tell her that she was going to be in the next film. The directors.
Mm-hmm.
So then after the movie was in, you're like, "Oh, you're going to be in the next one." Just like, "Oh, okay." But that was cool.
That's true. It's a fun franchise, man.
Do you remember when she and Ronda Rousey were fighting? Because in the seventh one.
Yeah, that was rad. Back when Ronda Rousey was still like a thing.
Yeah, but then that one loss and it ruined her career.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
2 losses actually.
Yeah.
The one loss began it.
Cool. So what's up next, man?
We're gonna take a little bit of a break, man.
Cool.
And then when we get back, my friend Adam Grassani should come in, and we're gonna be talking about Kingdom Hearts 3.
Cool. Well, I
which
got
is certainly
class in
a
about
thing.
half an hour, so I'll see you later. And
All right.
yeah,
I
thanks
will
for
see
having me,
you.
man.
Always fun having you just stop by real quick.
Yeah.
That was
of
fun.
course.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, guys, you listen to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. When we get back, we're going to talk some Kingdom Hearts 3 with Mr. Adam Grassani. I hope. I believe. Yeah, he'll be here. I trust in the Adam. But yeah, stay tuned, guys. 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. And what is up, everybody? You're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Back here with the Digital Dash. Just got finished talking with Alejandro, who stopped by. We just went and talked about a bunch of things, Super Bowl, the commercials, and just a bunch of random stuff, and Fast and Furious, which was fun, and I haven't seen that movie in a really long time, and now I really want to. And now, for the first time on my show, trying to come up for a nickname for him. I don't know. I really got to work on this. I'm actually just going to spend some time coming up with nicknames. But it is Mr. Adam Grassani. How are you, bud?
Oh, I'm doing great. I mean, did you watch that dumpster fire from yesterday?
I did. It was that's exactly right. It was a total dumpster fire, and it was very hard to watch.
It was. I actually told you before break. I was with a place called 201 Food Fun Sports. It was a really nice place. I went there with my friend, and we were just watching that entire game. I mean, we were just FaceTime. I mean, the halftime show. Don't even get me started on that. I mean,
it's like, and I talked about today with my friend. It's not that the Pats won. It's that the game was bad.
That's the point.
That's the point. The
Super
Pats have had
Bowl
good games
51,
before.
the Patriots won, and that was probably my favorite Super Bowl of all time.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even last year, the Eagles won that one, but the year with the Seattle one, that was unfortunate just because I hate the Patriots, but it was a good game.
Yeah.
Last night it was though I've said this, and I don't mean this ironically, I really do think the best part about last night was the Avengers teaser. That was the only thing that I enjoyed. I was like, this is fantastic. I didn't know this was happening. This is so cool. I could geek about that forever.
That was literally the best part of the entire Super Bowl. Honestly. That's really one of the only good parts about the Super Bowl.
For sure. But yeah, man, Adam, you're part of WMSC. You have your own show, which we just saw the promo for, or heard the promo for. TGIS Sports. Thank God it's sports.
TGIS, thank goodness it's sports.
Thank goodness it's sports. Yeah. My mistake. But this is the first time on your show. I mean, on my show. See, I can't even talk today.
Well, I was on the last semester to do newscasts.
You were. That's true. You were on it for a little bit last semester, but this is your first proper appearance. So, would you like to introduce yourself? You can say whatever you want to the millions of viewers at home, listeners at home.
Well, they're not millions of viewers. I mean, I wish there were millions of listeners. But anyway, what's up, guys? My name's Adam Grassani. I mean, if you want to give me a nickname, you could call me Adam Lit Grassani. That's what always be. Back when I was at Burn Community College at the Torch, that's what they all.
That was a dad joke.
That's what they always used to call me because, I mean, I could go into listen. Basically, we were doing a retreat, and the advisor said, and then he posted on what was it? I don't know what social media platform, but someone asked the advisor there, what do you think of the retreat so far? And the advisor said, it's lit. And I just took away from that.
That's a terrible dad joke. I love it. So, yeah.
And my show is every Fridays from 4 to 7. I talk mostly sports. I do have a segment towards the end of every single show of mine, around the 6:30 hour called Thank Goodness It's Not Sports, where I talk about something sports related and I try to relate it to sports.
That's good. That's a really good idea. I like that. I'm a fan of it. But we're not talking about sports, believe it or not, today.
No.
Instead, we're talking about something else. And you have a little pin I see there. You have 2 pins. I think it's 2. Oh, you have one that's Pikachu, another one that's Sora.
Yeah.
From a franchise called Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
And you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan. You are the There
I'm
are
probably
2
the biggest
fan.
I know. I'm probably the biggest fan of the series at this radio station. I mean, I got this from the deluxe edition. When you purchase the deluxe edition, you get this spin. I mean, we don't have any cameras here, so I can't show our audience.
Right.
But yeah,
looks like the final mix thing. I think.
Yes.
That's the
Yep.
thing he's got with the little crown on his head.
Yep.
So here's the thing. I wanted to bring you in to talk about Kingdom Hearts 2 for our first impressions of the game because I got it too, and I'm like a fan-ish of the series, but I wanted to get the third game, mostly because I was just curious.
Yeah.
Mostly. We're not going to try and bother explaining the story. That would take us 3 weeks worth of the radio show, and you would have to be on it. I still don't think we'd be able to explain it.
Yeah.
But bottom line, just a basic thing, it is a Final Fantasy Disney collaboration where you explore various worlds and use a thing called the Keyblade, which is your weapon to see. I'm already like it's, and you basically have to beat darkness and bad guys.
Audience is already just
they're like zoning out. And basically, this is the third game, the third main game, I should say.
Yeah,
in the
third
series.
main game.
Third main game. There have been more than 8, 9, I believe. There's been
There are
the first one.
there are a bunch of bridge games between the two, between a bunch of the games. There are too many bridge games for its own good.
Mm-hmm. So let me just ask you. Let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
I mean, so far, I mean, I love it so far. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the biggest thing I really like it is, I'm just start with the biggest thing that everyone loves about Kingdom Hearts, and that is the combat. And the biggest thing I could take away from the combat is that I think they finally struck a good balance between melee combat and non-melee combat. Where we have a game like Kingdom Hearts 2 where it's like I think a lot of people feel it's like way too heavy on the melee
I don't like
combat.
Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, but and then
I like the story of that game, but not
I mean, yeah, like I say, it was
not
like
the gameplay.
way too melee.
Yeah.
Focus where the games like Birth by Sleep where it might not be enough focus on melee combat. I think they've struck a good balance with Kingdom Hearts 3 because it has a similar feel between melee from Kingdom Hearts 2, which I like, but there's still like purpose using magic. There's still purpose to using like other spells like the.
And it doesn't feel like you're mashing the X button as much.
Exactly,
as it was in the last one.
exactly. It doesn't feel like that as much, and you get all these Keyblade transformations, and you get all these second and I just really love that about them, like all the Keyblade transformations that you do, and the game rewards you for playing well. That's
cool. That's a good way to say it.
The game rewards you for actually playing well because if you've spent enough time defeating, or at least you gain more momentum, and then you see those arrows before, and you build up more momentum, you get rewarded with attraction flow, Keyblade transformations, different forms.
So let me explain that basically really quickly.
You explain it
because the first game it's very different than what it is now. Yeah. Basically, you start out with your basic Kingdom Key Keyblade, which is like the one that people have seen on the posters and stuff, and it looks cool. I think that thing looks sick. But you also, throughout beating different worlds, you get different themed ones, most likely based off the Disney world. That I won't spoil all of them, but this game, instead of Kingdom Hearts 2, which was like drive forms, there was 4 or 5-ish, and you would basically activate them and sacrifice a party member for the time being, give Sora like an extra Keyblade and more abilities, but basically it boiled down to, again, mashing the X button mostly. And in this game, instead of just it being Keyblades, when you use the form changes, and each one is different, and in my experience that's true, you activate this you change the actual form of it. Think of it almost as like, this isn't the best analogy, but like Iron Man from Avengers Infinity War, where it's like he changes the form of his suit.
That's actually a really good comparison.
Thank you. Where this one so far, just the ones I've experienced, there's one that changes your thing into a shield, which you can permanently kind of block with, and you throw it, and it's a lot more sturdy and slow-paced. And then there's another one which is like a hammer. So it's different than a sword, if that makes sense. Sword versus a hammer, one that is focused on shooting, you know what I mean? And that's a cool, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but a cool different thing that they've added to the combat that I've enjoyed, and that you can have multiple Keyblades equipped at the same time. I don't know if you knew that. I don't want to spoil too much because you're not as far as me.
I mean, I knew that going in. I knew that going in.
I didn't read anything. I didn't read anything.
Yeah, I mean,
and I knew because I watch E3 religiously. Yeah. I knew that Toy Story was in it, but I looked up nothing when it came to the game itself.
Oh, okay.
Just because I felt like I'm not as into the series as much as you, so I want to at least have the fact that I won't know anything heading in.
You watched the E3 trailers. I mean, you kind of got spoiled of something there.
Yeah, there was, but
we're not gonna mention that.
Yeah, it's just. But what's funny about the series is, if you don't know enough, you don't even know what is a spoiler. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I don't even think I knew what was a spoiler, although I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
where they show a certain character has done certain things, I guess,
I
with
mean,
darkness, I think. But
basically, a certain character has joined the bad
yeah,
side.
yeah. Okay, I know
That's
what you're
all.
talking
That's
about
all
then.
we're gonna say.
And they like show that, and that's like weird. And I thought that was a spoiler. I was like, we don't know that, right? It was just a funny thing that happened. But my other thing with the game so far is it definitely is beautiful. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Without a doubt.
The game looks great. I'm enjoying the visuals of it. Another thing I would say so far, and my biggest, because I really think Kingdom Hearts 2 is not a good game. I've just thought that for a while. I don't think it's awful or anything like that. I just think it's trying way too hard to be like God of War, and they forget what was cool about the first game, which is still my favorite and one of my favorite games ever.
I agree.
Rest of the series,
I agree.
not even close to being in my top 10. But I will say that what I loved about the first one is that it was so enchanting, and that it was this childlike wonder quality to it.
I completely agree. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 1 is still like in my top 3 favorite games of all time.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I know my sister and me talk about this all the time. Where she,
I'll
loved
see
the
how
first
close
game.
Kingdom Hearts 3 can get to it once I finish the game. But
So far,
right now, Kingdom Hearts 1 is at the top.
So far for me, I don't think it's gonna recapture that feel of the first game. I think there's multiple reasons for that. One, because I think the writing has just gotten a little bit too much. Just lines like "His heart is inside my heart." It's gotten a little bit too. They've like more than quadrupled down on the lunacy of what's going on to the point where it's just a little bit too insider baseball for me. And I think that the first game had this. I don't want to say that you can't have child stories that still are cool for adults. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that since I was a kid, these characters still talk the same way. And it's not, to me, like I said, as endearing anymore. The first game, like, Sora says really like cheesy things, right?
Yeah.
And all that, my friends are my power. But it's like he's a kid and this is the first game, and it's like there's an endearing quality to that. And it's like it's okay.
No, I definitely understand. You definitely make a great point. I mean, I'm not too far into the game, but I'm not too far into like the game like as you are, but so I don't know as much about the rain. But I could definitely agree with some of the things you said so far. I mean, that one line where Sora, I'm a huge fan, by the way. That's my son, but he just has this one line.
We got to a little thing on Twitter about this once. Yeah.
There's this one line where he like complains about his clothes. I'm like, I want to just.
Oh
throw
yeah.
My controller
That's in this
across
one,
the
and I
room.
was just like, and they didn't do it in a way that was like funny and quick.
Exactly.
It was like, oh, like I was like, all right, come on, like who's writing this? You know what I mean? Like
I know.
Tales.
It's
like Dragon Tales level writing at the point. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
I mean, I don't think even Kingdom Hearts 2, which didn't really have that problem. It's just it all started really with the infamous Dream Drop Distance, which I don't like that game. I do not like that game at all. But I mean, it all just started like ever since that game. It's just the writing. It's just like.
The first game, it's endearing, and you're like, okay, it's fine. We'll excuse the cheesiness of this because it's about a kid trying to save his friends. You know what I mean? And working with others and the power of friendship and all that stuff. And also, my other complaint...
I don't think that's necessarily a problem with like the later games. It's just not pulled off as well.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. I don't. There's nothing wrong with stories that are kind of cartoonish and aimed at. I don't want to say aimed necessarily, but that have a younger feel to it. You know what I mean? Like Pixar movies, like they're for kids.
Exactly.
But they work in different ways for adults.
Exactly.
This, I feel like that was the case for the first game, and everything after that. Maybe Chain of Memories. Chain of Memories is kind of dark, and I kind of like that.
Yeah. The story Chain of Memories was amazing.
And two, I think, is where it starts the whole shaky dialogue. But I still kind of like 2 because it wasn't convoluted yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It didn't get to, because we only had 2 games before that.
Yeah.
So it didn't get, and then of course there was like that prequel game, but that comes
Birth
out
by
later.
Sleep?
No, not Birth by Sleep, but like the X, the mobile game or whatever that you can't even play now. Yeah, I know.
That game is infamous among the community. Trust me.
And what I thought was interesting is, 2, I enjoy the story moderately, especially the main story, not necessarily the Disney World. That gets a little bit cheesy.
Yeah.
The first game, it's like him talking to Aladdin, and it just worked for me. And it just,
did.
to this day, I still think that it's watchable and the dialogue isn't bad, and it's cheesy, but in a way that's like, it's endearing. You know what I mean? And I will say this, though. With Kingdom Hearts 3, it's definitely not going back to the first game in terms of the dialogue being any better. It's so far I'm like, eh. Now, I will say, though, it's pretty cool seeing, spoiler, and this isn't a spoiler, Buzz Lightyear and Woody just going to Toy Story World or whatever. I mean, it was cool. It was just, the kid in me was like, this is cool.
I mean, I did see part of like the story world in terms of like because I was watching E3, so that was a bit.
You know what worlds are in it, so
but,
you know,
I know,
like,
but
pirates.
Yeah, but the whole relationship between Buzz and I really like that.
Yeah, that was cool, and I enjoyed that one part, and I just enjoyed that. And it hasn't been as bad as what I've seen from some of the other games, the dialogue and stuff like that. But one of
It's
my
a step
issues,
in the right direction is what I'm
yeah,
trying
it's a
to
step in the right direction. It's a little bit better. What I was hoping from this game is that it would feel a little bit more nostalgic, and it would remind me of why I liked the first game so much, which came out. Hold on, I just want to make sure I get this right.
And while I was saying, I wanted to mention one thing that I really like
Yeah,
about
go
the
for
game
it.
in terms of the gameplay. The worlds.
Mhm.
They are just so much better like the worlds in previous games. Like, I remember in Kingdom Hearts 2, the worlds are just like hallway-like. There's nothing to explore. Like, they're basically just empty hallways, for you to, just dash enemies in. Whereas, as in 3, there's like, there's a lot of puzzles. There's a lot of exploration. I remember one time towards the end of the Olympus world where I got lost. Where I got lost, and I had to use my brain and actually figure out like how do I get through this like obstacle. And you never really have that challenge in previous games.
I think that the first game has a lot of exploration.
The first game has a lot of that,
which was really cool. I like that. I love that it was more spacious.
Yeah.
I love that. But then in 2, and I played 2 recently because I just wanted to get the trophy for beating it on proud mode or whatever. I don't know why I did that one summer, but I've played it relatively recently, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I was like, the worlds are so small. And
exactly.
It's like you literally have like, because you walk through it quickly and it's like the Tron world. It like deceives you into making it think that it's like big, but it's really just a couple of doors that you go through. It's like not many rooms. This game so far, it doesn't necessarily have many rooms, but all the environments I've been to, which is the Toy Story one, very spacious, very wide open.
There's a lot
which is really cool.
There's a lot to explore. There's a lot to there's just a lot more to do in these worlds. Than
in
there
my
was
opinion, not
games.
always a lot to discover. Not always, but it's better than 2, where straight up like you could find all the treasure chests.
there are
if you walked,
some areas,
3
but
feet?
I think that's expected when you're creating like such extensive worlds. There are gonna be there are normally gonna be some areas that are just like dim, but I think I'm willing to give it a little bit of a pass as long as for the rest of the worlds.
I will say the game is relatively entertaining from a gameplay perspective. I think that it's fun. It's not too God of War-y, and I do think that even if it is at times feeling like I can just bash the X button, at least they have these form changes things where it's like it mixes it up a little bit.
Exactly.
Where you can play a little defensively or use the hammer, which is a lot of fun, or use these blaster things. Like that's kind of cool. And the story itself so far, I wouldn't say that it is I would say it is not a requirement to play all the 800 other games in the series, but I would say there's a lot of stuff you won't understand.
It helps a lot if you like.
So I can't necessarily recommend though. I can't recommend that people go and play all those games to play this game because it's. I recommend playing the first one to everybody. I will say that the first Kingdom Hearts game I love, but I can't necessarily in good faith be like, yeah, you gotta play all these games. This isn't like a Star Wars. This isn't like a Game of Thrones. Like you need to catch up right now. This is incredible. It's a thing where. The only thing you kind of have to get is things are happening, I guess. They have some little like things in the option menu to kind of catch you up, but even that is just not going to do it totally for you. But I do think it's possible to enjoy the game without fully understanding what's going on. Look up a YouTube video.
And that's all you can really ask for, because that was a big issue with like that debate amongst the Game House community for a long time is how are we going to explain this gargantuan story to like a new audience? How are we going to introduce it to a new audience? Like, I think like I think 3 is doing a good job where even though we're how can I really word this where it's not really it won't really detract you if like I still recommend you like get caught. It recommends you get caught for the story, but even if you don't, it's not necessarily a negative. It's not something that should detract from the experience at least too much.
But it's not like I remember this thing just to have another like kind of cross reference. With Infinity War, a lot of people complained like there's 18 other movies to this thing, and I was like, yes, but you could actually explain the plot of Infinity War in a way and summarize what happens in all the other Marvel movies in a way that takes less than like 5 minutes for people to at least understand. Okay, bottom line is that they've been collecting stones, that they've made reference to these Infinity Stones throughout the movies, and that this one bad guy wants to collect them all, and they're all coming together to fight him. Like, it's easy to kind of do that. But this game, this series, it's like, I don't think I could summarize. I think it's impossible to summarize the story in a succinct way for people who haven't played it. You know what I mean? And I think I think it should be criticized for that, because I also think there's no way Square Enix thought this far ahead. They clearly just were like, oh, this is kind of cool. Let's now triple down on it. in a way that nobody's gonna understand unless they play it every single game. I've played a lot of them.
I remember going in the line to pick up the game, and I was talking to a bunch of people because I picked up the game on Monday, the Monday before the release was January 28th, because they were doing like an early release of people who pre-ordered the game, and I remember talking to people there, and he was explaining the story, and he's like, "It's so dumb, and I love it."
But yeah, I agree. And one thing I will say about this one is they clearly wanted to address the concern from 2, which was that the game starts off slow with the rock segment, which, by the way, I kind of liked. I liked it from a story perspective. I thought it was really grim, and it was sad that you basically find out, spoiler alert, I guess, for a game that came out in 2005, that like the character you play as is just like a, how do I say this for people? Like a copy? Is that a fair, like, I know that's not what he literally is, but like not a clone, but like a version of Sora, the main character, that's not real. Yeah. That was created based off of him. He's not like his own person. You find that out. I just like the grim thing of it. And he says, my summer vacation's over, which I think is a friend of mine's like favorite quote ever. And then it introduces the title.
That
I
quote,
personally
you think of that
it.
quote every single time you come from summer vacation. Like literally.
I personally kind of like the slowness of it. That's just me. The gameplay part of it, it is a little bit like you're just doing chores and it's an elongated tutorial. Yep. But I did like this whole, like, what was going on. I remember playing it for the first time. I was like, what is this? Yep. This is kind of cool. Who are these people in black and this Axel guy? And, like, what's going on? Like, why is he randomly get this thing that Sora has all of a sudden? I thought that was cool, the mystery of it. But in this game, they definitely just throw you right into the action, which I think is probably for the better because I'm in the minority in terms of enjoying the beginning.
I thought the tutorial, like, that dive to the heart section, I thought that was probably one of the better ones in the series. Like, the way, like, it introduces the game, introduces you to all of Sora's memories.
Which one? The second one?
No, the first. No, the third one. The third game.
Yeah. They do that well.
Yeah, they really handle that well. I thought they handled that as good
as you could without being like ridiculous about it.
Like they basically like just introduce, here's Dive to the Heart. You just get through it. You choose all your options, and then bam, just throw you right into the action. Definitely an improvement from previous installments.
And what I will say this though is that I have not finished the game at all. I don't know how long it is, and I don't want to look up how long it is. But like hours.
I've heard it's about like 30 hours.
30 hours. Okay, so I'm like a third of the way through. Yeah. I'll probably like on a future show render my verdict fully because I want to know how the story ends. If it's not a good ending, or in my opinion, not a good ending. Yeah. And maybe I want to hear from you just to know what you feel.
You could definitely have
it.
me on for that. Definitely.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Hi. What? The person after you who does the show. When does he get here? He gets here. I mean, he got here at like the right time last time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, no problem. I'm about to end in a couple seconds. What happened? I'm literally about to end in like 30 seconds. But yeah. So yeah, as you guys just heard me talking live to Haral Patel on air about what we're gonna do. Adam, any final thoughts?
Not really. It's just overall from what I think from what at least people play so I think we both can at least agree that it's a good game.
So far, it is a good game.
It's a good game, and I definitely
not necessarily great or amazing, but it is good.
Like you would at least recommend that someone like pick it up.
Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. Or if you're just curious about this franchise and you don't like the games, look up the story. Maybe just if you're like if you don't care about it, then look up the ending.
Like you at least recommend it.
I think most people, even if they don't like this series, are just curious. Yeah, people who hate this series are admittedly just curious. Yeah, but yeah. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it.
That's it for the show.
That about does it for today's edition of the Digital Dash. Remember that you can always tune into the show every Monday from 10 to 1 p.m. here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair or the iHeartRadio app. As always, to close things out, it's Journey with Separate Ways, Worlds Apart. Remember, everyone, never accept the world for what it appears to be. Dare to see it for what it could be. I'm Javier Reyes, and I hope you all have a great day.